All right, thank you, Madam Clerk. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, members of council, members of staff, members of the public that are joining us here in the chambers. Today is Wednesday, November the 20th, 2024. It's just a little past 12 p.m. and council, we're going to continue our budget meetings. This is a special council meeting agenda. We did have a good day yesterday, and I'm sure we have lots of great discussion today. So we're going to get moving on with our regular portion of our agenda, and then we'll get right into budget presentations. First of all, be it resolved that council of the township of Clearview hereby approve the agenda for the council or special council meeting, budget meeting number 2, dated November 20th, 2024. Can I have that moved by Mr. MacArthur and Mr. Broderick? Thank you so much. Any questions on the agenda? Seeing none, I'll call the motion. All in favor? That carries unanimous. Thank you very much. Declarations of pecuniary interest and general nature thereof. If anybody has any declarations. Again, as I reminded us all yesterday, this is a omnibus bill when you do a budget. So this serves the interest of all of us in the community, as we're all residents as well. The next portion is our budget presentations. Today, I do want to just remind members of council, we did receive notice that Kelly McDonald, she will be joining us virtually online. However, Kelly is still under the weather and not feeling that great today compared to yesterday. So I'm going to turn to the CAO, John Ferguson, if he'd like to do any opening remarks in regards to this budget process. Mr. Ferguson.
Thank you, Your Worship and Council. And I'd also like to thank members of the public that are attending today. It's an opportunity to see what's going on from our budget deliberations. Today's agenda will be dealing with 3 key departments. One will be Public Works, Water and Sewer. Another is Fire and Emergency Services. And last but not least, Parks and Recreation. Before we begin, I wanted to just touch base on one item from yesterday to help provide clarification under economic development. And you can see it on our screen here right now. If you can move to the next slide. So yesterday we showed a budget that was merged from the planning budget. What was brought over was downtown beautification. And so we're going to put downtown beautification under economic development. We also needed to show where we're putting something in the budget associated with energy efficiency programs. So this could be the heat pumps or insulation programs with the public. The community improvement plan. Again, this relates to a lot of areas of our community that might need replacement of a curb or something of this nature that has been wearing out over time. And then we'll continue on with our special events with a $55,000 budget. So just to be clear with council, this is not a part of taxation. This budget is being populated from our reserve budget, and it'll form as part of our operations, which means if council approves this going forward, we won't have to go back and request a special motion to take from our reserve midway through the year. It's already a part of your operational budget if council subsequently approves this. So we wanted to bring the actual budget statement to show these changes, but this morning we didn't have time to get those updated. And but we plan on having that to you at the next meeting. So I just wanted to provide that for clarification. And if there's any questions, I would entertain them.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. CAO. For council's benefit, I had a conversation with the CAO yesterday about this, and I was glad to hear that he has acknowledged that we need to place something in there underneath the energy efficiency program. I know we've discussed this, and it has not been fully fleshed out as to how the program is going to work or what the titling of the program is going to be. So call that a working title, if you may, the energy efficiency program title. And that's the intention of this. If we can get it rolled out, get it all flushed together, we will be very pleased, and so will the community. So I think it's good advice from the CAO to put this in now so that it's active and we can then act upon it as quickly as possible. So that's sort of the outcome of that. And then the beautification line, if you recall yesterday's discussions, there was no number attached to the beautification. And that's part of the monies that was spent sort of traditionally some 10 years ago even by the former community development. No, it wasn't good. Community, what was Mara's title? She had yeah, so Mara had a program there that looked after that, and she was very helpful actually in creating some of those water or flower containers and so on, and getting all that organized. So the point being is that that money is now going to be moved to economic development, community development, and it'll be managed by those folks. Okay. All good? Did you have something you want to ask, Mr. Deputy Mayor?
Yeah, thanks very much. Mr. Ferguson, can you explain, so if we're taking this money out of reserves, have we been putting this money in all along as reserves? If we're going to be, I mean, if it's a one-shot deal, that's fine. But if we're going to be going on it year after year, at what point do we make it a budgeted item?
That's an excellent question. Prior to my arrival, I believe the township was putting approximately $50,000 a year into the Economic Development Reserve.
Correct.
And it built up above 500,000, I think close to 700,000. I don't have the latest figures on where the reserve is now, but it is healthy. But it is something that, as far as I know, we plan to continue to contribute to $50,000 a year. But that's something I have to verify with Kelly. We haven't had a chance to discuss it. She's not been in the last few days. So
Okay, just especially with hiring our new EDC manager, I think it's important that we don't, take our reserves, run them dry if we have to budget it. I mean, that's fine for this year, but going forward, I think we got to look at making a permanent budget item on that. So, thank you.
that's ultimately our objective.
Good, thank you.
Yeah, again, just to clarify, of course, these programs are all things that we're moving around, and once we know that they're successful, then we'll create a genuine line for them, and they'll continue to exist. It's all good. All right, thank you, Mr. CAO. Nothing further then from you as introduction to today's discussion?
No, I think that's it. The only other thing I would add is that each department's going to be presenting, and those questions can be directed to the directors of those departments. And if
Sure.
there's any other questions that we can assist with, Kelly's available if need be, and so am I.
Yeah, well, I hope she's feeling well and drinking some nice warm tea. All right, let's move on. We're going to go to item number 3, of course, which is our Public Works Department. We're going to start right there with Mr. Perot. I believe you're going to come right up to the mic there, Dan. It's good to have you here. And I know you've got some of your team members here with you, which is great.
Thank you. Hope you can hear me.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Your Worship, members of council. Happy to present this year's 2025 proposed 2025 capital budget, or capital and operating budget for Public Works Department. As you mentioned, I do have Todd Patton, manager of public. Right there. Manager of operations for the Public Works Department, and Ms. Patty Kennedy, our manager of engineering, here to offer some assistance as well if there's questions. But for the main portion, Todd and I will be presenting as we've done in the past. And this year I have a voice and not coughing, but I may have a tickle. Let's see. So we'll be discussing next. You have slides up? Okay, sorry. As in past, we'll talk a bit about development and engineering work, roads, transportation, operating and capital. Todd will be discussing water and wastewater. I'll come back and then speak to stormwater management again, and any questions. So development and engineering, I'm sure this hasn't changed for many years, but this is kind of a snippet of some of the works that our engineering division is doing with regards to development, be it draft plan approval, draft plan renewals, I guess, or amended draft plan approval, grading works, development, implementation. You also have Sunnydale Street, which was well underway and will continue into 2025. We're also looking at Creemore and its development proposals. Council saw on Monday night that the tribute lands have been draft plan approved, so that will kick our department into high gear and reviewing engineering design. And just a bit of an overview, sorry, of the infrastructure projects that are related to development. A lot of this hasn't changed. As I said, Sunnydale will continue, Southeast Stainer Pump Station will continue into 2025. The township and its engineers have taken over the design for Mowat and Superior Street intersection, working with the MTO and the works that need to happen at that intersection will continue as from design and hopefully into construction. Mowat Street North, we're still pushing developer to continue on working on that project. Same with Margaret Street, and I know Todd has this included, and it's been a hot topic lately, but our Klondike Park Road water supply project is much needed. A little bit of a newer project here that we are going to look into and hopefully get some survey and design is William Oak Perry urbanization and stormwater management improvements with the proposed redevelopment, potential for proposed redevelopment of the school site. There's a large large storm sewer that runs through the middle of that property that we'd like to get away from that and put it on the road as road infrastructure. So we're going to look at the potential for that. Some Creemore infrastructure, the master servicing plan that was done over the last few years is now complete. So we're going to shift to design work. That's designing for the sewage treatment plant upgrades, any upgrades to our water system, well supply investigation that we will undertake as well for additional water in Creemore. So we'll go through roads, transportation, and bridges, the proposals for 2025. If council recalls, back in 2019, when I did my first budget for council at that time, we had put together a 5-year plan to better remediate our gravel roads. I think that 5-year plan was a great success. Our gravel roads are in much better condition with the work that we've done as far as digging out soft spots and putting in some gravel and doing it strategically and in certain areas of the township that make sense. So we restart on another 5-year plan, and we're starting back to 2019. You'll see later on, Todd and Joel and the team have reviewed those sections of gravel road. And again, patting ourselves on the back, I think they're in really good condition. So we think that we can scale back that program a little bit, shift monies from that program into other areas that unfortunately have fallen off because of the success of this project. So, bit less, still the same amount of maintenance. So we're going to do the graveling, but maybe not as many dig outs, maybe not as thick a gravel as needed in those certain areas. So some highlights here, like I had mentioned, although it may not look like on the overall sheet, and I could explain that in a bit, but we're looking at leaving the 2024 operational budget for the works that we do the same. And like I said, reallocating some funds into from gravel into hard surface maintenance, basically paved roads, and maybe trying to tackle some of our worst areas that we've seen over the few years that that have caused us some issues. We've done quite a few major projects on 10th Concession, Riverside Drive. This year we're proposing on Centerline Road that have sort of taken the allocation away from sort of our resurfacing of hard surface roads. So we're going to look at picking that back up. We'll revisit this, but you know, we have increased our budget in 2024 for roadside brushing. We have a proposal at the end that may change this. Our sign budget, you know, we're putting up a bit more signs. It's an increase of $10,000, reallocation of $10,000 to match what we're actually spending. Streetlight maintenance again is our streetlights are getting older, so we're doing a bit more maintenance on those, and a couple of decreases in our vehicle and equipment maintenance. I think we've really seen some success with our enterprise fleet management and the amount of maintenance that we are saving on those vehicles. And I think we all know probably why we're proposing to decrease a bit of our sanding salting. Is that 2023-4 winter season was nowhere near a normal winter season. So we have some pretty good surplus of sand stockpiled already in 2024-5 winter season that will allow us to save some money there. So I mentioned it previously, major capital work project, most likely will have to be done over a 2-year period. Is a quite needed Centerline Road from County Road 9 to Concession 7. It says phase 1 there, but it would probably include both phases. That comes in at about $4.2 million. So it's excuse me, not only a lot of work that may take a couple of years to complete anyway, but it's quite an expense. There's a recent photo if you haven't been down, but this is the Collingwood Street Bridge. Girders are in. The deck is probably going to be done in a few weeks here before Christmas. And that project will continue into 2025 as well. I'd mentioned that while our operating budget for the works that we do, I'll call it, is not changing, or we're going to potentially save some money. I have proposed to increase our transfer to reserve for bridges from $788,000, which has been standard for as long as I've been here and before, and proposing to increase that to $1 million per year. So an additional $222,000. A bit of a smaller project that we are proposing to do this year, regardless, is Brock Street Culvert. So just east of Elm Street. It is in quite poor condition, and we've actually been monitoring it every 6 months instead of every other year. It's in dire need. Basically the whole bottom is out of it. So we'll propose to replace that this year. Capital equipment replacement. Todd did a phenomenal job a few years ago in looking at a lot of our large equipment and reviewing it and sort of seeing what our needs are for the next, I think he might have done it for 100 years, but over the next quite a bit of time. And I think what this shows is that we're a bit behind on the replacement, especially in our plow vehicles. They're difficult to get. ordering them now, we get them in about 2 or 2.5 years. So it's a lot of waiting on that. So again, another major increase that you'll note in the operating portion of our budget is not in the works that we do, but also the transfer to reserve. So increasing from $100,000 that we put in every year to 300,000. And that is that part of it. I don't know if you wanted to ask questions now, your worship, or did you want to get Todd to go through his stuff? And
You know, there's an awful lot of items in here, so perhaps we should have a conversation and ask some questions
I
now.
think that's what we've done in the past, but.
I think we should do that. If members of council have any questions to Dan regarding the Public Works presentation thus far, we'll leave the water and sewer issues for the next round. Yes, Mr. MacArthur, go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to question, can you give us a bit of description of what proposed works you're going to do on center line? Because to me, it got the banks got cut back in that 30 years ago or whatever. So I don't see, in my opinion anyway, a whole lot of bank work, more just a resurfacing project. But can you just quick update on that, please?
I think you, through your worship, I think the majority of the work there is some bank stabilization that is needed. You know, the banks were cut back, but there's a few spots there where they're slumping in. So a bit of the similar work that we did on the 10th concession as far as stabilizing the banks with the geogrid that we use there. Some road excavation. If you've traveled that road, you'll see that it's, you know, it's got the wheel ruts, so it, you know, the base is most likely needing of repair, and then a lot of safety equipment, safety devices, guardrail, guy wire, you know, those types of things. So we also look at maybe easing that profile a little bit as well. So sort of cutting and filling in certain areas.
The major thing would be in the Deep Valley, that culvert, will it have to be replaced in this project, or?
Right now, the proposal is just to reline it.
Yeah.
To put a liner in it to keep it.
Yeah, because that would be the only major.
You know, and also that the thickness of asphalt. You know, one of the big things of what's happening there is that asphalt just breaking up over time, and it's only one lift.
Right. Yeah.
Putting a tube, you know, 90 mils of asphalt on that road will make it last a lot longer.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Dan. Deputy Mayor's up next. Is there anybody else? Marty's in there too. Go ahead, Deputy Mayor. Yeah.
Thank you, Your Worship. Can you explain, please, under contracted services that we use right now? I presume a lot of it, I see we've added in a bit for consulting. Is there any major line items outside of contracting and engineering and stuff that we use under contracted services?
One of the, if you're talking about 080, I think it's 530 is the GL line, but contracted services includes our transit service. The transit service is included in that GL line.
Okay.
That's the major one. There may be a few other little bits and pieces here, but that's the main line item for that budget.
When I'm sort of looking towards, and this is a bit of an extended question, if that's okay.
All right.
The,
Work it out.
I saw in our capital purchases for this year of 1.3 million or whatever, and I've talked a bit prior to this meeting potentially about heavy equipment for excavation or whatever we want to call gradles versus whatever. And I was just trying to find out and what we can look forward to in terms of if there's a savings of what we contract right now out. And I'll just throw a little dig at it. A machine like that, we have a lot of opportunities with them. And I've seen us using a lot of contractors to clear the sides of the road with trees and stuff. I'm, for one, would like to see someday have a forestry group or whatever we want to call it that is able to take care of our scrubbing and our stuff like that. And I was hoping you'd say, oh, we got some contracted services that we're paying for now that we could do ourselves, sort of thing. So Can you just comment on that?
Yeah, yeah, and you're way ahead, because there will be a slide coming up
Okay.
on what we're proposing. That's not, it's not included in this version of the budget, but Todd and I have discussed this in length. And there is a proposal to save. So right now, I don't know if you want to switch to that.
No, stay the course.
Stay the course, but there's potential to save, $85,000 on contracted out services that we have right now. And I think the one that you're speaking of is our brushing and tree removal contracted services there is a specific line item in each one of our different GL codes, the contracted services. So we right now, I think the number was $65,000 that we contract out brushing or those types of works right now.
Okay.
So.
All right. Thank you.
I'll
Let's
wait.
stay tuned to the end.
Stay tuned. We'll have some more questions, I'm confident. Mr. Beelan's up next.
Thank you, Your Worship. My first question is about, same as Robert MacArthur, about Centerline Road. Maybe I'd like all of council to maybe drive that section again, but I find the worst part is from County Road 9 to concession 5, like that really needs to be redone. But from concession 5 to concession 7, the road really isn't in that bad a shape. I'll drive it again a few times, but there's probably only a couple like 10-meter sections that you could maybe carve out and replace that part. But I'm wondering if we could save a lot of money only going to concession 5 rather than concession 7. I'm asking all council, take a look at that road. It's really not that bad from concession 5 to concession 7. So this project has it repaving all the way to 7. And I'm not sure that it really needs to be done all the way to 7. So that's my first comment. Maybe you could figure out how much we'd save if we didn't do it all the way to 7.
Yeah, and we'll have cost per meter and that when the design gets a bit further along, but these are again preliminary estimates, and we can certainly revamp the design for that. I agree, coming down that hill, more so at the bottom of the hill as you get to the 7th, there's a bit of base issue there.
Yeah, but that's
Road base
only one
issue
little section, right?
is
So
a piece, but
I'm going to ask all of council, take a look, drive that road and take a look at it. I really don't think the road is all that bad. My next question's the report that Kelly gave us, your facility utilities. We're budgeting 180,000, whereas last year was 163. I'm just wondering, where does that increase come from? Is that more like, why is it going up so much? It's a $16,600 increase in utility use. Our facilities not being efficient, or what's going on there?
I don't know the specific item. Todd, did you put that? It may have to do, and thinking off the top of my head is that we have a pretty new big facility there now.
In New Lowell, yeah.
In Stainer as well, that
So is
in
that
2020, in
is that
2024.
the extra 16,000 then?
Potentially, I'd have to look back at the.
Could you report to us next time,
Utility bills, but
our budget when we vote on things?
sure.
Okay, thanks. And then my last question is, I still wonder about our capital equipment needs. I mean, some of these things like graders and trucks and all that, they should last. Are we just paying the depreciation part? Like, what justifies us getting all this big equipment? Can we see some kind of report on like repair bills going up or something like that can justify this? Like, what are we spending this 2025 $1.35 million on? That's a grader, I believe. And is that just one grader?
Yeah, thank you, worship. Grade all, replacement grade all, a grader, 2 plow trucks.
And 2 plow trucks. How much is a grader? And how old is our grader?
So yeah, and I believe it's 2 tandem plow trucks and the grade all were what is included in the 2025. We pushed the grader out because of the current maintenance costs. It hasn't reached to where it needs to be just yet. So to your point, Councilor Beelan, that one has got pushed out to, I believe, 2026. But yeah, I mean, if you'd like to see the maintenance costs on, say, the 2 vehicles that we intend on
Just drop in.
replacing in Well, we'll order them 2025, probably see them 2027. So
So how old is our grader right now?
the one that that was up, that we pushed it another year, it'll be 8 years this year. I believe it is. Yeah. Originally, when we started doing this, we were getting the 10,000 hours in roughly 10 years. We put about 1,000 hours a year on them. And the first year that we started this, I think we shut one down because we were gonna put almost $100,000 into the engine.
Yeah.
And so we looked at it and we come up with around the 7,000 hour mark as a, let's use that as a guide. We're kind of almost there now. Like we've got 2 graders been replaced since we took over. This was the 3rd one. And it hasn't quite reached that hours yet. So we're gonna push it another year to try and equalize this budget because the tandem plow trucks are.
So is there
taking
any,
so long to get and the cost of it's.
yeah, is there any information on like industry average on how long these machines last and how many hours they use or?
When we purchased our new one this year, the CAT, that's typically what the rep from CAT said is, yeah, like 7,000-8,000 for municipalities, probably a good number to start looking at replacing them. So we're moving forward with a different program, even with CAT, that is a full warranty for the 7 years that we've got. And that way, when we do flip it over at 7, it's going to be worth a lot of more money and it's still going to be in pretty good shape. We'll look at that time. It's 6 more years away, but yeah, that's kind of the gauge that they're going by these days too.
So we would get some money for the old ones when we sell one?
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
We just don't know how
I'm
much.
hoping on, once we've got the new one in, but it literally just came in within the last few weeks. We're just making sure that it's working fine. There's no quirks before we put the other one out for sale. I'm hoping to get at least 100,000, if not more for it.
Okay, thank you, Todd.
Thank you. Councillor Deneen, then Mr. Walker, and then Mr. Broderick.
Thank you, guys. Through your worship to Dan, if we get rid of these, the contractor out, are we going to have to look at more manpower maybe for your department to service those areas?
Your worship, through to Councillor Deneen, that's coming.
Yeah,
That-
okay.
That is going to be part of our
And-
final slide.
And you know, I've talked about this before, from County Road 3031 down to County Road 33 on the 10th concession and the ruts on that road too. So if any of council wants to take a drive from the Pretty River Valley Road up the 10th to the next 3031, be my guest. There are definite ruts there. So, yeah,
If you don't mind, to your worship, to Councilor Dean. So
thank you.
as Dan alluded to earlier, we've gone through the operating budget and you've seen earlier where we're moving numbers around from the gravel resurfacing, which we put a lot of investment into the last 5 years. Some of that money is going to go back towards doing some areas like that. So you'll see here before probably December 1st that those areas are going to get touched up. We found money to make those sections work for this year because they are bad. But then going forward now, we move that money that we're not using in gravel into that type of projects throughout the whole township. Then we'll focus on some main areas that necessarily don't need full road rebuilds, but there is sections that we can replace to extend it for another maybe 10 years before we need to repave the whole thing.
Thanks. Thank you very much.
All right. Sounds like council's going to be doing a lot of driving on side roads, and that's good. Mr. Walker, go ahead.
Thank you, your worship. To Dan, with regards to the busing, do you foresee any major changes coming forward, like routes, working with links, new bus? I just wondered if there's anything like that coming forward, and is there enough money in to deal with some of those changes if need be?
Dan?
Yeah, thank you, your worship, to Councillor Walker. Certainly, I'm gonna need to do something in 2025. We have some commercial developments happening out at the east end of Stainer with the new food store, new developments that are out there. So it's something that certainly looking into as far as revising or altering or amending some of our route system. Just recently spoke with the sort of a transit group that we have, and we have our partnership with Wasaga Beach and Collingwood, and looking how we can work better as far as our transit system. Links is certainly a key to all of this because, as you know, our bus, as well as the Lynx bus, travel to Wasaga Beach almost the same time every day, 5 days a week. Unfortunately, the Lynx bus doesn't go up on the weekends. So the potential maybe for some savings as far as maybe a weekday service in Stainer and then just within Stainer, and people can transfer to the Lynx bus to go to Wasaga Beach. And then on the weekend, include that trip to Wasaga Beach. There's a whole variety of things, a lot of municipalities now are turning to on-demand transit system as far as almost like booking a route or booking a ride to a certain place. So there's a whole host of those types of things that are options to us, and certainly I will need to have a look at those in 2025, or like I said, as a major store gets built out at that east end, and new development to the south off Margaret Street and servicing over on the west end as well. So there's maybe some gaps, maybe some efficiencies that we can look at for 2025. And yes, to your point, we will need to be looking at a new bus. But all of those projects and the bus will be captured in our reserve for transit. Maybe Miss McDonald, I don't have the number off my head, but Miss McDonald will have an amount that's in the reserve, which I think is pretty healthy right now. Gas tax reserve for transit.
Go ahead.
Also, I failed to mention, but I'm wondering if we should be looking at some type of a shelter, especially out here with conjunction with the Lynx bus. For that, and maybe another shelter or two in prime locations as we move forward, because I think they're needed. And they should certainly be looked at, whether we can do a joint venture with the Lynx or somehow work it out.
Yeah.
But I think it's needed in a couple of spots at least.
To your worship, Councillor Walker, very on topic again, like I said, with our tri-party group. We've Wasaga Beach more so, they've developed a standard for a pad and a shelter. So certainly something we'll also look into as far as improving our transit system.
All right, Mr. Broderick is next.
Thank you, Your Worship. We have something like 78 bridges and major culverts, correct?
That is correct.
Most of them, if not all of them, are either are coming or have come to full maturity. I'm meaning they're about 100 years old.
It's a good question. Your worship, I'm not sure what the average age was, but I could look into our bridge. Bridge study.
Well, I've been here for most of that. Anyway, I'm just curious, do we have any that we know of that are in imminent need of replacement? And secondarily, do we have we developed a replacement schedule for those bridges and major culverts?
Great question, with your worship, Councillor Broderick. So as you know, we do our assessment every other year. So we do half of the township one year, half the township the next year, and that vice versa, carries on. So far, I think we're handling or tackling the three right now that are most dire, and one is already very much underway, of the Collingwood Street Bridge. Next priority is the Brock Street culvert that I identified earlier. And the other is the second concession bridge over the Mad River. Some design work has already taken place there because of the costs that are needed. So in 2025, we do need to transfer or use some costs from our reserve for the remaining works at the Collingwood Street Bridge. The bridge out at the culvert at Brock Street will eat most of the rest of that reserve for 2025. And I'm looking at replacing the bridge on the second concession in 2026. Other than that, we'll take another look at it and, keep the process going, but they are prioritized in our condition assessment reports.
Thank you.
I believe that's part of the roads needs assessment work that has been done in the past. We haven't updated that most recently, but certainly the work that's being done by our crews every day, they know what areas are in bad shape. So is that right?
Yeah, Your Worship, we are in the midst. In 2024, council approved the budget to update our road needs study. So that work's underway. That work's underway as we speak and should be completed sometime in the spring of 2025.
Okay, perfect
So
then.
that part of it. And then our bridge inspections were completed in 2024, just late. I just got the report not too long ago, so we'll review
Right.
that. And we continue to do those on an
Okay.
ongoing basis.
I'm going to take a shot at a couple of questions here, council, unless there's somebody else who wants to jump right in. I had 6 on my list, but now I'm down to 5, so I'm doing pretty well. In regards to the bus shelter question, we did talk about that right here at this budget meetings last year. One of the items that we did talk about here at this table was the need for some type of garbage receptacles out here, because the waste materials start showing up as people get on and off the bus, and there is no spot for them to put any garbage. So we need a proper waste can out here, along with this shelter that needs to get produced. I can't tell you the number of times that I've walked in when it's raining and there are people standing underneath the little roof here by the door of the admin center. And I'm often, are you okay? Can I help you? No, we're just waiting for the bus. And so they're standing right over at the building to wait for the bus because there's no shelter. So this is an ongoing concern, and we want to make sure that that moves up as a priority of council for the Public Works Department to work with the county and get this happening. Okay. I want to ask a question about the your increase to the bridge reserve. I mean, you're rounding it up to $1 million because it's a good number, I guess. Basically, you're looking for about what, $220,000 more? Is that basically where you're looking at?
That's correct.
Yeah. So with that, the cost of bridges continue to increase too. So I'm not sure if we're actually gaining any headway here to actually pay for them, because they certainly cost more than that every year. This structure that we're doing down there in Creemore is, 3+. So it's becoming an expensive venture for sure. So I'm asking through you and the Treasury Department, perhaps with consultation with the CAO, we can come up with a better plan, and maybe you can make a recommendation for the 2026 budget as to what that number should be if we're going to take a look at the actual costs of these things, because they continue to cost us so much money. So if I can just ask for that recommendation.
Yeah, certainly, Your Worship. And I might just add that, not all the works that we need to do or have done
Right.
require the $3.5 million. It's, the culvert over here is about $600,000. So, you get some of those years that the need isn't quite there, but purposefully, we sort of delayed a couple of projects to get that reserve up to about the $3.5 million mark for the Collingwood Street Bridge. So
Right.
certainly you can look at it for 2026, and probably don't want to shock council with probably $40 million that is needed as part of the condition assessment, but
Yes.
start tackling it piece by piece. Certainly.
Okay. Again, I'm hoping that we can have a sort of an analysis of those type of costs and how we can budget for it in a long-term plan, instead of just, every year asking for $200,000 more. We need to have a plan to show how we're going to get there to pay for all these. If I may, council, I'd like to ask a question. You mentioned that the William Oak Perry urbanization project's something you're going to add for 25. Is that right? So what
For
would,
the
what's that?
investigation and design, a look at possibly a design for that.
Okay. So you're going to design that. What type of works are you looking at? Are we talking about sidewalk replacements, ditch replacements, that kind of thing?
Yeah, thank you, your worship. So when we received the pre-consultation for possible redevelopment over at the property, we noted a fairly large storm sewer running right through the property and
Right.
and looking at some of the for the needs of that road as well as the need for decongesting is a word, but of that intersection of Perry and Main Street where the parking is, right there, and it makes that intersection difficult. But mainly on servicing. We need some water and sewer upgrades in along, especially William Street. So taking a look at that whole scenario, we thought that that was the best sort of the look at those three roads.
Okay.
Prior to or in conjunction with the possible redevelopment.
Right.
A lot of that stormwater, if council doesn't know, but it comes along through there, basically comes to Gideon and Perry Street, and there's a big sewer that runs
Right.
across the main street. So, getting the storm sewer to that location would be ideal.
I can see the value and the importance of that, of doing this project. What I want to note is that there are curbs there now. There are some sidewalks there right now, and we have a hard surface. And there's no gravel surface per se, maybe a little bit there to the south end. But I have to bring it up that we have discussed at this council table probably 4 years in a row about the full urbanization project and the analysis of what's going to go on George Street in beautiful Creemore. Because that project, while we talk about it, doesn't seem to keep surfacing. And so I'm just wondering, why are we going to take a look at this project where we have kind of a functioning area there? There's not a giant concern. And if there is a big concern, I'd like to hear it. But when we have residents who have been dealing with, poor parking, no access to their mailboxes, lack of street lights, et cetera, no curbs, and safety for walking because there's no sidewalks down on that piece of George that runs behind Gowan Park. And so I'm just wondering, where does it sit in the priorities here, guys?
Your worship, I could explain, Perry and Oak and William is portion of that project would be paid by development charges, so it's
Great.
It's a bit subsidized. Down on George Street, there are no, I'd say, subsidies as far as that's concerned. Certainly something if that's a priority for council, is not for me. It hasn't showed up as far as a need for pedestrian access and those types of things. I know it's been brought up at council before, but taking a look at it, it's not a heavily traveled road, but certainly something we can look into. That's not an issue. We can have some survey and design work done and come back to council with cost estimates for urbanization.
Okay. I would encourage members of council, if they're doing a road tour, to go down to George Street, but stop, get out of your car and go for a walk and think of how you would walk a stroller down the street, or how you would walk back from the grocery store, or how you would walk to get your mail. So have a consideration of that, members of council. It has been talked about here quite a bit, and yet, as you pointed out, there's no development charge money or any funding that's directly related to that type of project. So when we put aside reserves, like I was talking about for bridges, where's the reserve money for doing these type of urbanization projects? Do we need to create a new reserve for urbanization?
So council, if you recall a few years ago, I can't remember now how many years it's been, but we did start a reserve for urbanization, $250,000.
Yes, we did.
I think the first project we used was on Locke Avenue. I think we're using some of that work, that reserve for Sunnydale Street. I'm not sure what that reserve sits at right now, but certainly talk with the treasurer and see where that reserve is and how much, if at all, we need to
Yeah.
increase it, similar to the bridges and other reserves.
Well, thank you, Dan. I appreciate that. So, I'd like to look at these projects and see if we can get some of these things done that citizens have certainly been asking for. And, in the growth of our communities, it's wonderful to see these new subdivisions, be built out to a perfect urban standard. And yet the rest of the community doesn't. And so we need to do some urbanization to sort of keep the core of the communities supportive of a comfortable community and easy for people to move around and safely move water and wastewater and stormwater, et cetera. So, all right. I do have, well, there's the 12:55 announcement. That's it right there, everybody.
Could have warned everybody.
Yeah, we should have warned everybody. I got the notice of that in the mail yesterday, actually, too. And so I put a posting out on the old social media. Anyway, that's great. Glad to see it worked. I do have one last item if I can, and then we'll go back to another section. You mentioned about streetlights. You want to increase your budget a little bit for some streetlight equipment, replacement values and so on. Can you just explain a little bit about how we work with our development community to source and pick and choose the lights that we want for our community? Because we end up with a whole hodgepodge of models. Certainly, your predecessor, Mr. LeMay, had great trouble finding and replacing parts for some of the streetlights that are in the New Lowell subdivisions down there with a little hat type structures, like just not made anymore. So can you explain how we deal with that, dealing with developers and try to find the right parts and keep a good supplier?
Yep, certainly, your worship. We do have a standard, and Ms. Kennedy is actually very, very close to having our design standards complete. We've been working very, very diligently on those. She may be able to provide an update on that, but we do have a standard. We have a
Yes.
standard that we've had for several years. We have a supplier that does supply those style of light standards as well as the heads. The developer is also required to provide us with one extra, sort of a replacement, if you will. When they're completed their development, they provide us with a spare. So we do have a standard. I think there's maybe two standards, one for, there are two standards? Maybe Patty can maybe shed some light. She's very well versed on what we're at and where we're at with streetlights.
Hello, Patty Kennedy.
Thank you to you, worship. Yeah, so our standards, we have two types of streetlight. We have the what I call residential type, which is the more decorative, and then we have the standard Cobra head. And that's what we're going to move forward with in our updated engineering standards as well.
Okay. I just want to make sure that, we don't end up with a barn somewhere full of multiple parts from multiple types of light fixtures. And I know, Todd, you had the occasion to show me around that room one day, and I was very surprised to see all the different models of lights that we have, and they're all different manufacturers too. So,
Your worship, we've got to narrow down to two.
okay.
So, yeah, we've come a long ways in a few years. The ones you referred to in the older style fan tops that were there 40, 50 years ago, they still do make the lights. What we had to do is get adapters made up to go on the poles. We've got stock now. So we've got those ones. We've got the Cobra heads which are a majority of the lights in the township. And then the newer style developments will have the more decorative lights, which are all the same now as well. So we're 2 to 3 lights now where we're at.
All right. So this line of questioning is all about the fact that you want to increase that line in the budget to add more monies directly from taxation to pay for these. So I'm just concerned if we're now going to stick with a standard that has 2 perhaps models and suppliers, do we need to increase that, or do we just need to purchase more supplies that sit in the barn, like I said.
No, your worship, the increase was more reflective of the actual costs for maintenance and repairs now. But it's not an increase in the entire budget. We're moving money from one place to the other to cover the cost of what it's typically been the last couple of years. So I don't necessarily think we need to change anything we're doing. It's like I said, it's not increasing the overall budget. We're just moving money from one item to another to cover the cost going forward.
Okay,
And I think we're in line with what we want to do, where we want to be. Having 2 or 3 lights is, I think, pretty reasonable.
I think it's a reasonable thing, and so that's good. All right, well, thanks very much. That's all I have on my little list. I can scratch off a few. Some cards are showing up here, so we're gonna start again. Let's make it brief because we still have lots to talk about. Deputy Mayor's up first, and then I see Mr. Beelan.
Could you, Dan, could you guys talk a bit about, you said about not being able to get vehicles and equipment for 2 to 2.5 years. How do we deal with that from a budget point of view? Knowing that we need to replace some, do we give authority now to purchase, or how does that work?
Thank you, through your worship, Councillor Van, or Deputy Mayor Van Staveren. So we include it in the budget, but we always come back to council when we make the purchase. The actual payment of the piece of equipment is not made until we have it in hand, so. Call 2022. I think 2022 is the last, or we're receiving those vehicles right now. They're,
Right, so if we're looking at it from a budget point of view, if we, let's say, don't put it in our budget for this year, because if we put it in our budget, we have to put it in reserves. From a cost point of view, we could give authorization, but do we have to spend the money this year in terms of, from a budget point of view?
through your worship, so the $1.35 million, that's sort of the need for 2025. But we're still only putting 300,000, or proposed to put $300,000 into the reserve.
Right, but what I'm getting at is, we need trucks ordered now.
Okay,
So do you have the ability to order the trucks for 2 years from now if they're not going to come for 2 years?
I would say yes.
So we don't have to
Maybe
wait.
the treasurer would correct me on that as far as the procurement policy, if it's not in, I guess if well, the funds would be in the budget or in the reserve.
It has to
once
be
the
funded.
Vehicles come.
Yeah.
But is it our budget for this year or for 2 years from now?
Well, when we purchase something, there's generally an initial price that we have to pay right up front to purchase it. It might be 20%, 30%. Is it?
Typically, no.
I'm looking at the chief because I know when we bought fire truck.
Maybe fire
we-
truck's a different
We
thing.
pay
but-
for it and 3 years later it shows up. So that is how we do it, right? We give a down payment.
No, well, so more recently, council knows, we've used the canoe process, the group procurement policy through
Right.
LAS. We've used that, which has been very successful, and we've seen some real savings on those. But we will spec a vehicle, whether it be a plow truck or a grader or whatever. We would come back to council with the authorization to purchase the vehicle. And that purchase, I don't think we've ever paid any sort of deposit or
Oh, okay.
or
Okay,
anything
so I
on
just,
that.
from a budgeting. point
Yeah,
of
I hear
view,
you.
I want to find out what we can do on what we have and can't do.
Okay.
Thank you.
Carry on. Sorry, I'm not trying to interrupt, but
Just want clarity. Yeah. So I think
Kelly, does she want to say something?
yeah.
Kelly's got her hand up. Look at that. Boy, this is a modern meeting. Go ahead, Kelly. How you feeling?
As soon as I get my video working, you'll have a good idea.
That's
Um,
okay.
I believe what the deputy mayor is asking is whether or not these vehicles are affecting the 2025 tax increase. In reality, what happens with these vehicles is they're all funded through the vehicle replacement reserve. So the actual vehicle itself has no impact on the budget. We do have to have it as a line item so that council is actually authorizing to go out to tender to procure these vehicles. I hope that helped.
So our regular contribution to the reserve each year replenishes the reserve as we deplete it on purchases. Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely correct.
How's that? Does that help?
Better.
Better.
Again, if I may.
I can see the former banker coming out over here, see?
If I may, like, you know, the vehicles that we're just receiving now, like, I know sure we've got them both, but they were a line item in 2022. And we purchased them and we're expecting delivery or getting delivery very soon here. So
So my,
those monies that we will have to pay out, you know, upon receipt of those vehicles.
so we have reserves set up for that, which came out of previous budgets.
Correct.
Okay, so I'm looking at some of the significant increase in budgets that if we can cut back on as far as the commitments, or do we have to put money with our commitments or how that works?
Oh, I see.
It would,
Yeah.
if I may, Your Worship.
Sure.
It would cause depending on the delivery time of the vehicles, it would cause that reserve to go into a negative balance, I would imagine. And it's severity and how much we can let that go into negative balance. That Kelly would probably have to answer that.
Okay.
Auditors and whatnot.
We've spent enough time on this anyway, so.
All right, we'll keep moving.
Good, thank you.
Thank you so much. Mr. Beelan?
Thank you, Your Worship. They say great minds think alike and fools seldom differ. I had the same question as Paul.
How about that? All right. We're going to save more questions for later because I think you're going to tease us with some more great slides in this category. So let's move on then and talk about water and sanitary. Todd, I guess you're going to take over the whole.
I guess I'm the
You're
guy
it.
up here now. That's right.
Attaboy.
I think we've talked a lot about this the last little while with our financial plan being due and council seeing a lot of information about that. So what you're going to see here is a lot of stuff that you've seen at the last couple of meetings and presentations. So I won't spend a lot of time, but obviously if there's any questions as we go, I just highlighted some items of interest for capital that are larger projects. You know, there's obviously more development one that Dan's already talked about that we've talked about for years, but some more smaller things within the pump houses and stuff coming up. So on our first slide, you'll see in the budget just some SCADA PLC upgrades, which are typical. It's we were chatting doing the financial plan. It's some of these things that we're replacing now. I was here when we first put them in, so it's some of these things are 10, 20 years old. They're coming around for replacement. So that's a typical life cycle costing. The water supply investigation Dan talked about earlier for the town of Creemore for expansion. Same with the reservoir and the well and pump house in Creemore. That's all developer driven. The Creemore reservoir repairs, this will go along with the reservoir expansion. We did do a inspection on the reservoir and it is in need of some attention soon. They give us some timelines on 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. So we'll see where the expansion goes and what the design is at, whether we go through with that, but wanted you to be aware that there is some work's going to happen at the Creemore reservoir for some repairs. And something that come up towards the end of this year was some of our smaller systems, smaller wells up there. And Deputy Mayor probably knows all well and good about these, but we're seeing some failures in some of them as existing wells. So we are right now, we had to start the process, at least with permitting that, to replace one of our wells at Collingwood Lands that failed. And then there'll be more of them come forward. We've added into the financial plan going forward in the next few years to update and replace some of those actual wells itself, the smaller wells. Fortunately, they're not deep wells, so the costs aren't like you're seeing for the KPR wells and stuff like that, where they're 12-inch and 150 feet deep. These ones are 6-inch and 40, 50 feet deep. So it's a little more reasonable, but there will be costs you'll see over the next couple of years. Next slide. On the operating side of it, once again, not a lot out of our norm here. The biggest one is our Creemore Well 2 rehab. That's on schedule. We have for maintenance for all of our wells. So it so happens it comes up in 2025. And then some of the stuff we do all the time now is our small system reservoir cleaning ourselves. That'll be something that we undertake. Unidirectional water main flushing are projects that happen within the operations that, once again, our own staff are able to do. Into the sanitary systems, same thing, some items of interest for the capital side of it. We look at there, you see the PLC updates and SCADA upgrades. Once again, that's a life cycle costing thing that's they popped up due for replacement, and confirm that with our electrical contractors that yes, they are old, getting antiquated at a date, so they are due replacement. The wastewater treatment plant stainer design is kind of started for the generator there. We're going to continue that and then hopefully go forward with purchasing of a standby generator for the Stainer wastewater treatment plant, which we have never had. So And then the Creemore wastewater treatment plant upgrades, again, that all comes part of the master servicing plan, and cost of that would be developer contributions. Operating side of the sanitary, we continue with our collection system flushing and cleaning. That's on a cycle, a 3-year cycle within Stainer. Sludge haulage within Stainer, that's another ticket item that was just part of the operations, part of the maintenance of the plant itself. And then we'll conduct our forest main to Wasaga Beach air valve inspections. We have those chambers. They still need to be, even though they're not in use, they still need to be kind of monitored and maintained so they don't, we don't fall behind on them. In Creemore, we are entering into a new operating agreement with the town of Collingwood, and that should go for both systems actually. So Dan is working with Collingwood staff on that now. So the new agreement in place come for 2025 going forward. And then just manhole inspection, which is done in-house, and operating item that we undertake ourselves, and then we'll see what we do from there for others repairs, because infiltration or not. And then just a simple slide that we always have in here for the rates going forward, and this comes out of one thing that'll be brought forward will be the rates bylaw. This, once again, this was brought up in we did our financial plan, so you will see the increases there. Sanitary is a big one that we are going to slowly catch up to where we need to be, and that was brought forward in the financial plan rates report that Mr. Charette brought forward there a month or two ago. That's just kind of, once again, a breakdown of kind of where we're at, where we will be at in 2025 compared to 2024 and 2023. Gives you some examples of a single person, couple, a family. And then this is just a slide from Mr. Shret's report, actually, that I kind of thought was interesting and talked about kind of just a comparison on what people will buy water for and what you're paying for, what you're getting within Clearview. So I always like the bottle of water one, where you can buy for $1, you get a half a bottle of water at Tim Hortons, and you can get, well, as of right now, 534 bottles for the same price. So just kind of puts a bit of perspective on, you know, the rates and what you're getting for your value through the tap. That's a real high level, simple breakdown of the water and wastewater. As I said, it's all in the financial plan, the rate study. If there's any questions on the water or wastewater that anybody has, feel free to answer them now.
All right, we can halt right there. Any questions in water? Yes, Dan or Paul, I'm sure. Go ahead, Paul.
Todd, when we see the upgrades, say a new well for Calling Woodlands, that's all put back to the users of that system. So
Yeah.
Do we have special levies for that, or do we just run it through as an amortized item?
Yeah, no, through your worship, Deputy Mayor, that is, as part of a asset within our water system. We have been collecting monies for these wells for years. So this will be something now that will go into the new rate study, and it'll be amortized at that 100 years or whatever it may be. So this will be just start the life cycle on a new asset now going forward, as it will be a brand new well drilled beside the old one.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Anyone else on council? The reservoir cleaning, it'll potentially impact every water user, but we conduct that, of course, with all the MOE standards to make sure that we don't pollute the system. You know, just to assure us that that we do it correctly.
Yes, your worship. Everything is done through the MECP legislation, guidelines, sampling, the technique, the way that we do it. We have a very thorough procedure now, and we've been doing it for a few years now, which is good. Our crews are very well versed in the procedure, and yeah, it goes pretty smooth now that we do it on our own.
Thank you. All right, nothing further from council. All right, let's move on. Stormwater systems, Dan?
Yeah, thank you, Worship. I'm back again. Just thought I would continue on, maybe update council if you're not aware on some success of what council invested in last year as far as starting a stormwater maintenance reserve. $300,000 we're asking for similar transfer to reserve for stormwater maintenance. As you recall, we identified 3 stormwater management ponds that we own that were in dire need of some maintenance and clean out. One thing that we found out in 2024, as we looked into this a bit more closely, is and fortunately, we did some soil sampling at the 3 ponds, and no contaminations were found that would require us to spend the exorbitant amount of money to ship it away and have it cleaned. And so we'll look at the next pond a bit more closely and how to deposit that or dispose of that in accordance with their excess soils regulation. Interestingly, just in the last month or so, we've received word that the regulations, excess soils regulation, is changing. They're proposing to change it when it comes to stormwater sediment removal in where we can and can't use it, as far as fill, I guess I'll call it fill. So those are positives that may just reduce that amount in all. Next slide. So here's Calling Woodlands subdivision or stormwater management pond. Here. Sorry for that. So the clean out was done in a couple of phases. So last fall we had a local contractor go in there and brush it all, get all the vegetation cut down and trimmed up. We had another local contractor come in and do the clean out of the sediment. Fortunate for us, and we had the space, as you see on the left-hand side of the second picture. That sediment was placed up on top of the berm, the access berm. So we saved a lot of money on trucking, and even though the soil wasn't contaminated, we saved a lot on trucking it away. So that was completed. I went for a walk just a couple of weeks ago, and it's looking pretty good, functioning well. Next slide. This is the McKean subdivision pond. This is the sort of the next one that we propose to tackle. And again, earlier in the fall, maybe late summer, had another contractor go in and cut down all the high growth. And you know, looking at it, our consultants went in again and surveyed it, and curiously, the pond was not built to its design. I don't know if that's what happened there. You know, it's quite an old pond. They uncovered the outlet for the pond. Wish I had included that. I thought I had included in there as a picture, but the outlet, which is on the east side of the pond, closer to the that longer stretch of brown material, was high and dry, probably about 6 inches up out of the ground. So or whatever happening in the McKean subdivision ditches, and the pond itself is either absorbing into the ground and not making its way to the outlet. Doesn't look like it anyway. I think I had noted maybe last year that the proposed development that is going to happen at the south end, the Georgian Communities development, their first engineering submission has indicated that they would like to combine the 2 ponds, or make one larger pond on their development property and abandon this one. For sure, we're still not sure if that's going to work or not, but regardless, I think we'll get in there and maybe do some ditch maintenance within the pond to get sort of that water flowing. sorry, can we go back to the first one, Krista? Just on the Calling Woodlands subdivision, had a good meeting with a couple of residents there and how we are proposing to move this portion of it along. And as Councillor Deneen, your worship, know, there are some residents that are concerned with the status of their ditches. Some are not. So interestingly, the residents, the community group there, are going to conduct a bit of a informal survey, I think, within the association, and see, if there really is a need for full out ditching of the subdivision. There may be some spot needs here and there that we may have to tackle. I just wanted to mention that, sorry. So here's the Vancouver subdivision, the pond off of Country Lane. Will be the next one to tackle. Again, similarly, I think we will get in there and get brushing, get some of that stuff knocked down, so we really know what we're dealing with here. I suspect this one will probably cost the most because there's no room to leave the sediment in that location. It was never designed that way. So we will have to truck that sediment off site. Just that may be a 2026 project.
Just to be clear, though, you're going to cut the brush down in 25.
Correct. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Try to get it
Try to get as soon as we can.
down.
And then you can get a better look at what you're dealing with. Yeah.
That's correct. So before we make any questions on stormwater, before we go to the next and the last slide, which may.
Stormwater questions? Yes, Marty?
Your worship, one of the things the Climate Action Committee was working on was stormwaters and what we could do with them. We were brainstorming. So it's good news that you have no contaminants in the soil. One of the other things they were saying, you could maybe just make berms out of the soil so you don't have to pay for trucking it away. Have you looked into that maybe? Because sometimes a berm can be nicer looking than the actual pond, like just stagnant water sitting there. Is there room for berms and can we do that, or?
Through your worship, that may be a possibility in the McKean subdivision pond. Certainly going to be something that we include or address as part of our engineering standards. There is quite a value to that. The developers don't like it, but certainly at least a drying area where you can put the sediment and let it dry before you ship it away, or if you have to ship it away. But creating areas where you can, because theoretically these ponds should only have to be cleaned out every 15 to 20 years. So if in its lifespan you have to leave some there for 1 year, or one clean out, and 20 years later you have to move it away, there's some benefit into having those areas available. But the Zancor subdivision pond, it just does not have the area. It's sort of developed, enveloped around the built up area.
Any other questions from members? All right. I'm glad to see we're addressing this. I honestly was quite surprised at the cost of these projects. I really was, but it has to be dealt with. And I'm glad you're putting some work into the engineering standards through the work that Patty Kennedy is doing to help, us deal with those problems in the future at other developments as they come. So thank you for doing that. Okay, council, we're going to move to, it looks like the last couple pages of your presentation. Dan?
Thank you, Your Worship. So as was discussed earlier, and this again is not included in the budget. This is just a proposal for consideration. Again, I said Todd and I discussed this in length in what we can propose to council and potential savings moving for 2025. in our 2024 negotiations with the union, we agreed to sort of consider 2 machine operator positions as standard, along with 4 grader operators, so 3 main grader operators and a backup grader operator. So with that, and with the potential to replace or obtain a either grade all or wheeled excavator type of machinery, we can dedicate that second designated machine operator to that machine. We currently, we spend about $65,000 to a local contractor to do our brushing works for us. We could utilize some of that money for a new hire. So we would move one of our existing DZ drivers, AZ drivers into that machine operator designation and essentially add another staff member to take that DZ operator position. Other savings that we may realize is our gravel resurfacing. So back in 2019, when we started that program, if you recall, we added a bit of money in for a contractor to come in and do our dig out the poor soils under the road base. You know, we can, I think we've a couple of times over the last few years, especially in 2023 with the significant weather events that we've had, the rainstorms, we had a few contractors in to do some of that, either road rebuilding or ditching works. So again, it's a proposal. It's not currently in the budget, but we can certainly work with the Treasury Department to move some of those monies around. New staff member, you know, most likely wouldn't be hired until after the winter season. To be about a $60,000 hire for a new DZ operator, DZ driver. Something also to consider, you know, it's not included on here, but we also contract out a portion of our sidewalks in Stainer. We contract out to a local contractor as well. They use that, I think it's sort of that west half of the village. We're just seeing it this year that some of the new developments, the sidewalks are coming online. Ashton Meadows, Nottawasaga Station, and currently they do sort of that Zancor subdivision area up by the arena. So this would be another way if we were to use some development charge money to buy a second sidewalk machine, that person, that new hire could go into that machine for winter of 2025-6 potentially. So that's our proposal. Again, here to answer any questions. Todd and I discussed this in length, and we think it's it would be a good benefit and potentially saving some money, but also being able to, you know, maybe do a bit more work in the brushing and ditching and having somebody dedicated, you know, full time to that machine.
Okay, sir. Members of council, do you have any questions about that? Yes, Councillor Janine.
I just threw your worship to Todd and Dan. I'm sorry for jumping ahead before. Going through this, I totally missed that slide, and I'm so sorry about that. Thanks.
Again,
Right.
somebody mentioned great minds, because I think that Deputy Mayor Van Staveren was also speaking to earlier.
Go ahead, Paul. You had something?
Thank you, Dan. I sort of set you up a bit for that. I'd seen the slides, of course, but My big thing on this is savings and better service for our constituents. I think you're starting to pull some of the numbers out we like to see where with the potential to save money in terms of doing more ditching, doing more of our stone removal, doing more, because there's been a lot of complaints about, you know, these, I won't, a lot of the side roads, the vehicles starting to get hit by overhanging brushes or the water's not flowing in. So it's kind of nice to be proactive. And if we want that service, we got to pay for it. We don't see in this, and I guess my ask for you is to come back as soon as possible with numbers that we can sort of chew over some of this stuff, what it's going to cost. And I know when you and I talked and Todd talked earlier that you were starting to investigate some of this because I think there's going to be a lot of savings that we will be able to sort of justify considering something like this. So anyways, that's just a big comment to that.
Right. Other members? Mr. Beelan, yes?
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm gonna bug Todd again. It's about this grader. I think I heard you say there was 10,000 hours on the grader right now. Is that correct?
Thank you through your worship to Councilor Beelan. We don't have 10,000 on a grader now. No, there was one that just got replaced that had the 10,000. So there was one originally, it was in our life cycle costing that would have been due this year, but it doesn't have the 7,000 hours on it.
So we're not replacing a grader this year?
No, no.
That's what I thought I heard you say, because I was looking up grade all and they say you should get 12,000 hours on average. That's the optimum time based on motor wear, transmission wear, axle wear. So we're not at 12,000. We're trading it in before we really need to. But does the current one, is it able to do that rotary mulcher without a lot of,
No, and yeah, through your worship. So the grader that we have, and I can't remember exactly the year, we had an opportunity, I'd say in 2020 or 2021, to purchase a used grader from a local contractor that was getting out of the business. And our road supervisor, Joel, was very familiar with the machine. It was a good machine, but it was 20 years old, 25 years old. That was an opportunity for us to get that machine and see how it worked, see if we would put it to use, if we had the, the operators, how much work we would get out of it. We are seeing the benefit to it. Once again, that machine now is 25 years old and it come up for the life cycle this year to replace. And we feel that it's good to be replaced because it is a very beneficial machine. The old one, you cannot put it the way it is, a brusher head on it. You wouldn't want to use the old one all over the township like you would a new one. But that's why we're proposing going with the new one. Now we can move forward with what we've trialed for a few years, and we see real benefit in having the machine. But as we've talked about for years, as we add equipment that we want more use out of, we do have to have staff to operate it because we haven't added staff for years.
good enough?
Thank you, Mr. Beelan. Is there other members of council with any other questions for this section? All right. I would have a question, if I may, to both of you gentlemen. I'm just wondering about operations, and that is, there's a great saying, make hay when the sun shines. So, during the summer months when we have all this ditching work and brushing work and road dig outs and so on, from 3 o'clock in the afternoon till sometimes 8:30 at night, we've got beautiful sunshine to make hay, but they're not working. Like the staff shifts don't work those hours. So is there any way that we can take a look at how we do our operations when it comes to, using the available time to do the work and get things completed? Particularly, if we end up with a rain day, they're not able to do something or whatever. And so how can we look at adjusting our schedules such that we can get work done and make hay?
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. I think our supervisor does a great job of scheduling work. Obviously, there's holidays that come into play, and
Absolutely.
with our operations staff and the roadside, currently we haven't got the amount of staff that they can take time off in the winter. So during those summer months, that is the time for them to take off. I think we utilize all the staff we have. Joel has it well planned out that staff are well aware of whenever the portions of the season are where there's opportunity to work longer hours. I think our staff are great at stepping up and doing that. And we keep moving with whether it be the ditching, whether it be gravel resurfacing. I think our staff we do put a lot of extra hours in past that 3 o'clock.
Yeah.
It does, yeah, it does get limited because of, you may not have all 10 or 11 operators in for a week or two in July and August because that's when they're using their holidays, which I good on them, but I'm not sure what else, if you're thinking of change of hours of work or.
No, I'm just suggesting that, I think it's wonderful that we are looking at doing some cost savings and create some equipment purchases. Your suggestion of even adding a driver, I think it's a great idea. What always worries me though is that there's a time to work and there's a time to get it done. And oftentimes it doesn't get done because it's not part of their routines or their scheduled times. And so I'm just hoping that that council has a hope that and a priority that we're going to be able to deliver services that the citizens want and get it done rather than worry about, overtime and so on. I mean, I know you have to balance your budgets. I know you have to work within the abilities that you're given, but we should be able to get work done when we have excellent weather. All the equipment sitting at the yard, at 4:30 in the afternoon when it's a beautiful day and it's going to be beautiful for 2 more days straight, just doesn't make sense to me. So
Thank you.
just my commentary, but I'm just asking you, can you take a look at that and see if we can work with our staff and with our union to come up with, ability to work, like I said, make hay when the sun shines. Okay? All right. Thank you very much. Council, if there's nothing else, no other questions? I'm going to propose a bio break. We've been at it for about an hour and a half. So why don't we just take a few minutes and we'll get back here at about 1:45. Is that okay? Thank you. Thank you. Members of council, we ready to rock? Ready to go here? Think we're still live streaming, Madam Clerk? Okay, so we'll welcome everybody back. We are a little bit behind the time, but that's okay. We're doing all right for the day here so far. So council, we're going to move on to our next department, which is our Clearview Fire Rescue and Emergency Services. And our chief is here. Hello, Chief Davidson. Nice to see you.
Well, your worship, thanks
all
for
right.
having me back.
Yeah, good to have you here. Let's have a good presentation here and then we'll ask you some questions. How's that?
All right, very good.
Send away.
All right, just the first slide here. Slight change over last year. We did move some apparatus around between the stations just to serve the community a little better, and I'll get more into that later. And again, our 3 lines of defense, the first being education, fire safety standards and enforcement, and finally, emergency response. And the services we provide under the prevention division is school and community events and outreach, safety inspections, fire plan examinations, and plans, development plan examinations. And under suppression and rescue, the only change from last year would be the addition of the high angle rope rescue. And for the budget overall, as you can see here, for operating, the increase is set at 84,000 proposed, which equates to a 0.43 levy increase proposed, and no increase in the capital needs for 2025. The capital highlights, the larger equipment needs will be our AED replacement. This will be our last phase of it. We paid half last year, the remaining half will be paid next year. And phase 1 of our radio replacements, that'll again be 2 phases. And oh, okay. Yeah,
There we go. Your screen just came up. There we go.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the remaining 90,000 would be for PPE, the bunker gear, small equipment, hose, those type of things. And a few notes under the operating highlights. So the cost of living adjustment and the addition to the prevention salary, which we spoke about last month, and the step increases for the staff. It's at 57,000 for this year. Our records management software, which is our operating system for everything. It's how we send our reports to the province. It's how we do payroll, all of our staff reporting. It's being discontinued in 2025. So just like every other fire department in Simcoe County, we're looking for a new provider. We are looking at a system right now, which again was touched on yesterday with software companies going to a subscription based versus buying outright. And that'll be 23,000 a year, but this system is going to incorporate our burn permit system, responder system, and overall be $14,000 after integration as an increase. Yeah, that one's working. And back to the vehicle movements we've done in the township. So right now, the rescue truck has moved to New Lowell from Stainer, just to accommodate our ice rescue program down there, as it's a lot more efficient and easier to get your rescue suits on for water and ice rescue in the back of a truck versus a snowbank. And the brush truck and ATV has moved to Creemore. And the plan that's being proposed here, with Creemore taking over high angle rescue and all the equipment that's required, we're looking at removing the pump, the fire pump from the back of the brush truck, and using it in what's known as Car 2 right now, and replacing Car 2 with an enterprise lease at $13,000 a year, which will assist with all of our rope rescue equipment, and it'll spread out our off-road resources to either end of the township. I'm just looking at the budget analysis. We can just go over that. You'll see an increase under facility maintenance. That's just the trends we're seeing in grass cutting, snow removal. 2 of our stations being Singhampton and Ottawa, we're looking at a few upgrades for the water treatment system, the water systems, and just general upkeep with the doors and things for the next couple of years. So that's where that increase is coming from. And vehicles and equipment, that increased part of it We'll incorporate the enterprise lease. What we have done in a few of our lines here is look for, efficiencies where we're not needing all the money in those, and like most have done, reallocating that to accommodate new items such as the software and the vehicle lease. Now, it's not on the slides here, but a carryover from the 2024 budget. We spoke about purchasing a new pumper this year as per our replacement plan. It's being finalized as we speak, but that'll be ordered most likely January, February. The idea is to have everything standardized for our fire equipment. Once the spec is finalized, we'd like to move forward, as needed when they're replaced to keep it all the same. And just to note that reserve is around 1.1 million for the purchase of this pumper, so it is covered still. And that's all I have. If council has any questions.
We'll get to questions for sure. Let's see, members of council, do you have any questions directly? Yes, the deputy mayor is up first. Is there others? Just looking. And Mr. Walker, go ahead, please, Mr. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. Scott, you said car 2 will become a utility vehicle. So when you use the term car, is that physically a car, or is it, what sort of vehicle are we talking?
Through your worship, that's just a fire service term. That's car 2 is known as the deputy chief. That's the vehicle they drive. And I drive car 1 as the chief, but they are pickup trucks.
Okay. And so these are vehicles we have right now. When you say replacing car 2, so we're replacing one pickup for another pickup truck?
That's correct. So car 2 will move to a utility vehicle status with a fire pump, and we'll have an addition of an enterprise lease to go back in place of car 2. So we're adding a half-ton vehicle to the
And that
roster.
will be just sitting in Creemore for when the guys need it.
Car 2 will be, the enterprise lease will be for the deputy chief for on-call and response.
Okay.
And the old car 2, I should have put the vehicle
Okay.
the makes just to make it easier, but that will become utility vehicle with a fire pump in it.
And that will sit in Creemore.
That one will go back to Stainer as we move the existing utility brush truck to Creemore. So Creemore and Stainer will have
A pickup truck sitting there.
to with off-road capabilities.
Okay. Do our, just from a enterprise, like I know last year you bought a pickup truck. Do we run all our pickups through enterprise, or how's that working these days?
So
New this
now-
year.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this will be the first year for the fire department anyway. Initially, enterprise was not able to accommodate the fire service.
Right.
But we're seeing now that, they can. So we're gonna try this first vehicle, and in time, if it's a successful transition and it works for us, as trucks are needed, we're gonna phase them out with enterprise leases instead of buying them outright.
Okay. Another question, we see it within the county. Our ambulances, we're having trouble getting ambulances. So we're going to what we call rapid response units, which are using SUVs. Is there any benefit for something like that in the fire department?
So through your worship, this was actually brought up in the fire master plan, where as our light vehicles were up for replacement, they would go to stations as utility vehicles, which crews can actually use to respond to medical calls or just basic things around the township versus taking the large apparatus.
Okay, I just see the trucks drive around. I don't know how much, I can't tell you how much you use them or don't use them. I just see it. If we're driving them around in an SUV or something like that, and I know we had trouble getting vehicles last year, so just a suggestion, that's all. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Mr. Walker, and then is there other members?
Thank you, Worship. Well, my question was kind of removal of the pump from brush 1. Would you not, do you feel it's better off on the I would wonder, thinking it'd be better off on brush 1 where you could go across the ground if you needed to for grass fires. You feel it's better off on a 4-wheel drive pickup then?
Through your worship, so brush 1 is the 4-wheel drive pickup. So
Okay.
it's being removed from that vehicle, so we can put our rope rescue equipment in the back, and that pump
Okay.
will go on another half.
Another, okay.
So we still have the off-road capabilities
Okay.
and firefighting capabilities.
The other question I have have you thought of, or do we have already some cost recovery in our budget for the fire, the permits with their fire with no permits. Rescue from the Bruce Trail. Are we looking at some type of cost recovery in these avenues? As we become more of a tourist area in that area, we're doing a lot of rescues and a lot of search for residents lost. And I'm just wondering if it's local residents, one thing, but most of it is not. And I'm just wondering, is there any type of cost recovery that we're looking at to help offset some of our rescue costs?
Through your worship. So the fees for rescue services for non-residents are actually coming to council with the new fees and charges bylaw, the proposed bylaw. So we have added rescue service fees in there for council to look at. And as far as revenue, if you look at our user fees for 2023, you can see we do have quite a few avenues to recoup costs, as we're $170,000 in 2023, and we'll be probably right around there for 2024. And that's through MTO billings for car accidents, car fires, and structure fires, all through insurance, not through residents.
All right, thank you, Mr. Walker. Mr. Beelan, is that right? Councillor Beelan?
Thank you, your worship. I don't know if this is for you or Kelly, but under your operating budget analysis, the facility maintenance is going up from 94,000 to 110. That's over $15,000 increase. I know we have 4 facilities or more than that, 5 facilities. Wow, that's over 1,000 a month increase in maintenance. What's going on there? How's that justified?
Through your worship, that's kind of what I was touching on there. It's the increase in snow removal and grass cutting charges that we're seeing for all 5 stations, as well as the upkeep for 2 of our older stations. Just based on data.
We contract that out, obviously.
That's correct.
Wow, that's gone up quite a bit. Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Beelan. Others? Any others? I'll jump in with a quick question. Chief, we do have obviously excellent volunteers and excellent apparatus and equipment that we purchase. And I know that our Councillor Beelan brought up the maintenance issue. So the maintenance issue is a little bit of a flag for me when I recently visited station number 5 and saw the amount of moisture that is sort of present inside the hall. I know it's an older structure. I know we've worked on that before. I'm just wondering if you had any plans in the 2025 budget to address some of those concerns, as well as the well water treatment systems that should be in place in a facility like that that's owned by the municipality, where we have employees and volunteer employees accessing water.
Through your worship, the moisture issue in Station 5 Singhampton has been addressed with a new system, and it's a night and day difference. As far as the water treatment for Station 5, that is an issue, but this coming year, there are funds available through the maintenance budget that we can look at a system for there. Because again, you know, it's not drinkable water in Station 5.
That's right. So, you know, I'm just concerned that, you know, these are our employees and volunteers. We want to make sure that it's safe for them to do their jobs. So I'm just hoping that that's part of your budget, that you're going to keep that in line. Certainly, station number 3 has turned out to be a terrific investment and a great partnership with the Public Works Department. And I understand we're even going to have a recreation office down there as well. So 3 departments are going to be part of that facility. So that's a really good example of how we try to utilize all the budgets to make something work for all of us. So I think that's worked out really well. Do you find that the space is now better for training purposes as well? I know that the Station 3 hall gets used for training quite a bit.
To your worship, that's correct. It is our training hall. And just a side note, we'll have over 20 new recruits starting in January there at Station 3 for their recruit training phase. And as of now, we still use it for regular training. We've set up props upstairs to use and downstairs. So the space, it's what we needed. So it gives us a lot more options.
That's terrific. That's great. All right. Then as far as budgeting, obviously equipment, as in the apparatus, as we've talked about that in the previous section. Um, our vehicle replacement schedule, it's not included in this, but I know we have seen that in the past. Have you recently updated that, or have you had a chance to take a look at that vehicle replacement schedule for fire services and see where we stand on that?
To your worship, I'm looking at it right now and I can send it to council right after. Based on the schedule and where I have the vehicles on that schedule is the year that we expect to receive them. So this pumper we're ordering next year, we will not receive or pay for till 2027. There is a 10% down that's required, but the full payment before you take ownership. So in 2027, we're looking at taking possession of a new pumper, and the following year in 2028. And then after that, there's a few years before we need another vehicle. But we have a 20-year running apparatus replacement schedule.
Yeah. All right. And the last thing about vehicles, I was wondering about maintenance. I believe we work with a lot of local truck maintenance facilities here in our own community, as well as access to, Freightliner if necessary or whatever. Is your budget satisfactory in that category? I didn't get a chance to look at the comparisons on vehicle maintenance over the last 2 years.
To your worship, we do budget quite a bit for vehicle maintenance.
Sure.
The cost we're seeing from any supplier or vendor for vehicle parts and service is getting rather ridiculous, to be honest. But we've had some major repairs in the past, and I think we're in a better spot now with taking on the new vehicle and another new vehicle in a couple of years, where it should lower our overall costs as it won't need, the major repairs. Our fleet is, very good compared to most. But we do see vehicles getting up there in age, and as we replace them, our costs should come down as far as maintenance.
Okay. Those are the questions I have. Is there any other members? Questions for the fire? Yes, Deputy Mayor.
Question, Scott. Do we have a ladder truck on order right now?
Through your worship, the ladder truck is in the DC background study.
Okay.
So that'll be funded through development charges, if, the taps get turned on here per se. So again, we don't have it on order, but as soon as we have the funds available, we'll be taking a
I
look
just
at that.
question it with our new nursing home coming on, seniors home coming on. At what point will we be forced to have one? And so I didn't know where the status of that was. Thank you.
Perhaps Chief, you can just take a moment, describe our mutual aid service where we don't, these type of apparatus that we don't own in our own township, and we do have access to them.
To your worship, yes, mutual aid is essentially that. We can provide pumpers to a neighboring municipality if they can provide a pumper back to us. We cannot provide a ladder truck to a neighboring municipality, so when we need one, we're either paying out of pocket for those services, but we also have an agreement if it's available with a neighboring municipality where we can use their ladder truck and they can use our tanker truck. But it's not something we can rely on forever, especially with all the development coming to town, but the resources are there if we need it and if it's available.
Excellent. It's a good camaraderie across Simcoe County to have the fire departments all work with a mutual aid program. It's beneficial to all of our municipalities to have similar training standards and similar equipment operations. Many years ago, even hoses didn't fit in other departments. And so now there's a pretty clear standard across all of Simcoe that all the hoses and all the pumps have the same threading. And that's a really positive thing when you have to do a major event. So anyway, that's just a small example of it, but thank you for explaining that business about our ladder contracts that we have. Members of council, is nothing further on fire department? All right. Thank you so much for being here and presenting your budget requests. We'll fully consider it, and of course, reserve the opportunity to call you back for questions after we have a discussion here at our next meeting.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Chief. All right, council, we're going to move on to the last one we're going to deal with today, and that is our Parks and Recreation Department. And Terry Vachon is here. He's got a whole pile of materials he's bringing up. He's got three amazing support people standing there behind them and a whole team of people that are working right now at this hour, keeping recreation operational, right, Terry? All right. Go ahead, sir. Yeah, I can hear you. Did you just turn it off? Turn it back on.
Push up.
Test one.
Oh, yeah, there you go. Right on.
All right. thank
Save
you.
the karaoke for Friday.
Yeah. So thank you, Your Worship, for allowing me and my team today to present our 2025 staff proposed budget. I was trying to think of a bit of a icebreaker before I start. We're getting a little late in the afternoon, maybe by a little chuckle. And I was looking online to see what's the latest trend to maybe share with you folks today. And what I saw was, unfortunately, Mr. Donald Trump's happy dance. So unfortunately, me and my team will not be doing any of the happy dance today, but I encourage you all to go online and check that out. So our Parks and Rec department, that's what we call ourselves, but as you may or may not know, we're involved with a lot of different projects. Most specifically, both our Stayner and Creemore community centers with other various facilities. We also take care of special events and tourism for the township. We have many parks, playgrounds, and green spaces, our baseball and soccer fields, our youth center and youth programming that has just been phenomenal the last couple of years. Our Centennial Pool, which is aging, our trails, small halls, mainly the maintenance side of things, as well as our recreation and fitness programs. Next slide. Could I see next slide? All right. Oh, okay, perfect. Got you. We're in sync. So, as you mentioned, Your Worship, I do have my team here today, and I'm very excited to announce that I have our full slate of all of our additions that council approved last year. I have with me this afternoon Miss Amanda Murray, who is the manager of the Parks and Rec Department, our youth coordinator Courtney Rogers, our new maintenance and supervisor, Mr. Scott Fawcett, who's not here today, but is part of our team. We also have Grace Beeman, who started this week with us, who's here as part of our team as well, and of course Jessica Kodire, whose office is located at the Stayner Arena, that takes care of our bookings. A few 2024 highlights I'd like to share with council before we get into the numbers. The Sunnydale Corners Hall, the AODA renovations were completed this year, and we opened to the public. I know council has had a chance to see the facility. It's absolutely beautiful. I even think it surpasses our and the volunteers' expectations. When you see these projects on paper, they look pretty good, but when you actually see it in person, it's absolutely phenomenal. And I really commend the board. They've added a few extra touches and it looks phenomenal. Also our active community project, which is fully funded by the Ontario Trillium Foundation for $200,000. We're going to speak a bit more about that a bit later on, some more slides, but that was definitely a highlight of our in 2024. Also our new electric Olympia, which is located at the Stayner Arena. And Your Worship, you'll be happy to know that it was returned on Monday, fully wrapped. And it again surpasses our expectation. It looks phenomenal. Also, we launched our new Explore Rec online registration program. Our staff spent a lot of time setting it up and being trained, working with the finance department, making sure that the back end materials was done as well. So that's exciting. And finally, we celebrated our 10th anniversary celebrations with the Small Halls Festival and Music and Parket event. A few challenges that we had in 2024, the youth center capacity issues, as well as the facility its own was an ongoing issue. But as we know, when I made this presentation, we didn't speak about the new facility that the council has purchased. So this might be a bit of a moot point. It was a challenge last year, but we're really looking forward to this new venture and this new facility moving forward. Again, student employment at the Stayner Centennial Pool was below our expected demands. The pool program and pool hours had to be reduced due to this shortage. We don't foresee a break in that in the near future. We're working with the HR department to come up with creative ideas and trying to recruit student lifeguards or even adult lifeguards. And it's a challenge, and it's a challenge across the province and the country as a whole. So hopefully we get more lifeguards in the future. We do work with our youth center, and we do have a bit of a program with them, trying to convince and entice students at the youth center to become lifeguards. That's a really good paying job. And but again, that's a challenge in its own as well. Timing of some of our new hires, as I said, Ms. Beeman was on board this week. This is her first week, and we had to work with the HR department over the course of the year to get our new staff on board. We went through the hiring process, but we think it was really worthwhile, and we have some really good teammates on board. Another one that we had challenge with was replacing the middle bridge at Centennial Park. Your worship, if you recall, last year we had that as part of the project. I do not have that project on for next year. When we went through the contract, we found and went through the fine wording, we found out that there was extra costs involved in the abatement of the bridge and some extra costs for the shipping. And I was anticipating some small amounts, but when I got those quotes, it actually doubled the project. So we went from 90,000 to 180. So I put a halt to that project. Obviously, it was way over our budget. But with that, I also hired a local contractor to review it, clean it, touch it up. We did an assessment of the bridge, and it's working fine. I think we can get a few more years out of it, Your Worship, considering the tight budget that we have this year. I think we'll wait a few more years, and I'll bring it forward in the future. There's a chance that maybe the price goes up, but I think I need to review that bridge and maybe downscale a little bit and just review that whole project as a whole. Another one that's not a part of the slide, I was joking with Miss Helmke there last week. Every time I look at my presentation, I wanted to make a change to it. So I actually had to stop looking at it, but I was reviewing it again today, and there's a few additions that I'm going to be adding that's not on the slides. But also one of the challenges that we had last year was the outside portable washrooms that council purchased. We were hoping to have these washrooms in place for the springtime. Unfortunately, the supplier could not deliver the product on time. It was delayed for a variety of reasons, and unfortunately, we couldn't get those going. I'm happy to announce that we have received all 3 washrooms, and they are, at the end of this week, will be ready to go, ready to be used. We will use them for some events this winter, but unfortunately, that was one of our challenges for 2024. Part of our 2025 budget, we do have some increases, unfortunately, specifically for taxation. Our budget has increased 285,000 for operations and 285,000 for capital and 46,000 for operations, which represents 0.54% and 0.24% respectively in the budget. We're requesting for council to continue to support the Clearview Youth Center within our department. We presently have 2 full-time staff and a part-time staff. That's part of our team there. We think since we've taken on the youth center 3-4 years ago, I think we've done a pretty good job. We've had many presentations over the years on some of the programs that we've delivered, and we want to continue to embrace that partnership with the youth center and have it remain as part of our department moving forward. We also would like for council to consider continuing to assign 1 seasonal part-time maintenance person for both arenas. We call him a bit of a spare person that fills in. So we were asking council to keep that status quo again for this year, and also to continue to support 15 summer students that we hire, mainly seasonal, between the month of May to August in the pool, tourism, and maintenance departments. So in essence, Your Worship, we're not asking for any new staff this year. We're just asking for council to consider to continue to support the existing staff that we have. So regarding the seasonal part-time, which we call the eco staff, the beautification staff, they have a bunch of names. We find that eco staff is the easiest one to say. Their duties will continue to ensure proper maintenance of our downtowns, of our infrastructures, maintain our dog parks and our eco parks, Also pick up garbage township-wide. Township has become, continues to grow in all of our parks. It just, we used to do 1 to 2 pickups a week, and now we're sometimes doing 3 pickups a week in all of our garbages. We have approximately 46 receptacles across Clearview Township that we maintain on a weekly basis, and they get filled up pretty quickly. There's also a variety of projects. They're in the slides there. I won't go through them all, Your Worship, but there's a lot of items that our maintenance staff continue to do on a seasonal basis. With that, I will invite Ms. Courtney Rogers to come up and talk a bit about the youth center.
Thank you, Terry. Welcome, Courtney.
Not quite as tall. Yes, so good
But
afternoon.
completely effective.
Thank you.
Good for you.
Good afternoon, Your Worship and members of council. So I'm here to ask for your continued support of the youth center and our operations. Not really much is changing. We continue moving forth on a path with great growth and great opportunity to continue exploring partnerships, to continue building great programs for youth across Clearview Township, including more partnerships, including the counseling, which we've just started recently, which is now being attended by youth, which we're really excited about. They're accessing and using the service we are providing. And we want to continue responding to the increased food insecurity and economic pressures our families are facing. And most importantly, we want to continue training our staff and developing them so they are prepared to face the challenges that we do see with dealing with this more vulnerable population.
It's an amazing opportunity for our local residents to come into Creemore, Stayner, and throughout the township to celebrate, but also we are welcoming literally thousands, possibly tens of thousands of visitors into Clearview. So it's an incredible way, and we look forward to always supporting our signature events. Some of those include the Stayner Duck Races, the Rough Mudder, Creemore Terrasmore, our Canada Day celebrations. Of course, we don't do anything once in Clearview, so there are celebrations in Stayner and Creemore. The continuation of the award-winning Trail Tunes, which was a top 100 festival in 2024. The Creemore Copper Kettle Festival welcomed close to 10,000 people on the last Saturday of August. Estimated numbers are about 9,800 visitors that had come into town. So these events generate a significant amount of tourism spin-off and economic activity. We're continuing with the Christmas in Clearview events, including supporting 2 Christmas tree lightings, 2 parades, as well as the installation of our rural lights and winter nights program. Those are the large snowflakes, stars, and we've been able to purchase some additional installations. So we're hoping to add upwards to 4 to 6 new locations for this year's Rural Roots Tour. We lead and support community marketing campaigns. We have our event equipment projects or program, which provides free event equipment to these signature events, as well as many of the other events that happen in our township, as well as we oversee the community banner program. So those are the banners on the street lights in Stayner, as well as the cross street banners in Stayner and Creemore. One really exciting project that we're looking forward to for 2025 is the implementation of our tourism sustainability strategic plan. If council recalls, we received COVID funding through FedDev and RTO 7 to create that sustainability plan. And this would have been year 1, 2024. We just had a couple like low-hanging fruits that we were able to really focus on for this year. But next year, now that we have a full complement of staff, we'll be able to implement those strategic pillars as identified in the tourism plan. And most excitingly, mark your calendars, the 50th anniversary of Sunnydale Winterama is happening on January 31st to February 2nd in 2025. So 50 years of celebrating the greatest show on snow. So please come out for that. And actually, I'm going to invite Courtney back up to talk about our Active Communities project.
All right. So our Active Communities project is well underway. This year, we were able to hire our new Active Communities programmer, and he's taken this project and it has moved forward with great speed and strength. We have been able to implement a lot of youth-based programming, which when we wrote this grant was we built this grant with the idea of finding some unique ways to solve some of our challenges in our department. And one of those challenges was offering more youth programming on a larger bandwidth. And this project has helped us do that, being fully funded by the Ontario Trillium Foundation. We, as you'll see in the slide, that wonderful picture, that's kind of our shining moment so far, which was our Jays Cares Challenger Baseball program. And we're hoping to do that again this spring, which was our, in this department, was our first time trying programming for those young people with disabilities, both cognitive and physical disabilities, and was very successful, and people were really, really happy. So we are excited through this project to continue that program as well. We currently have a Learn to Run 5K program happening right now as well. And we have been able to, with this project, expand. We have a gym night on Friday in Stayner, and we now have a gym night in New Lowell on Monday nights, thanks to this project and just our ability to be able to expand our programs and services. And for this upcoming year, we're going to continue our social walking and hiking series, including a snowshoe series. We are really excited to launch a new short mat carpet bowling program that's going to be happening at the Stayner Arena. So stay tuned, more details are coming for that. We also have a forest therapy partnership with another local health organization. And we are also excited to see the return of the Clearview Health and Leisure Expo falling under this project as well.
I know, that's okay. Thanks, Courtney. So continuing on with our tourism operations, music market and parket next year. So 11 years, but this year, our 2024 was our 10th anniversary. And we support, in addition to having an opportunity for local vendors and farmers and artisans to sell their wares, we also support 12 different community partners. And we have an estimated weekly attendance of over 1,000 people every week. And we are really excited. Of course, I hope everyone had a chance to see the spoons. They returned on June 6th last year for their 10th anniversary show. Our 2025 operational plan will be to have our new events and tourism coordinator, Grace, be certified as a Farmers Market Ontario market manager. That's a provincially designated training program. We will also be implementing a couple refer vendor discounts and some new fee structures to better attract and to entice our local farmers and producers to come back to Music Market and Parket. We've seen a slight decline over the last few years, but I know that our visitors and our local residents are really looking forward to having those vendors return. And then also we'll be celebrating officially Farmers Market Week, which is typically the second week of August. So just a few highlights to look forward to for 2025. Also in our events and tourism and rec programming section, we'll be continuing with the Clearview Youth 3-on-3 hockey program. This will be our 4th annual, and it's geared for ages U9 to U16. It's coming up April 4th to 6th. And once again, last year was an incredible success. We had 46 out of 48 teams filled. So we're hoping to expand on that once again this year. And you'll see that the Clearview Culture and Sports Hall of Fame will be continuing next year. And nominations open January 31st, and we'll be working with our committee to provide the selection in that late part of spring, so after March 31st, with the Hall of Fame dinner now being moved into the summer. And the reason being, once again, like Terry, I reviewed these slides over and over again. I thought, oh no, I need to add something. And that's because in my plan, we need to include our volunteer appreciation dinner and our recognition event. That event happens on the 3rd year of a 4-year council term. So that is scheduled for next year for mid-spring. And it's a project that's coordinated by our rec department in partnership with the clerk's department to ensure that we're recognizing all of our volunteers, specifically in Clearview Township. So for members of council that are new this term, you'll have a really great opportunity to meet and greet and to celebrate those wonderful volunteers that we have. So that's a couple highlights looking forward for 2025. Also in our portfolio is the celebration of the Small Halls Festival, which is now a festival series. Just 2024 highlight, we did run 9 events that generated over $30,000 in online ticket sales and an estimated economic impact for our community of over $365,000. And we also received, because it was our 10th year, I had created a plan to celebrate our small halls, specifically on one weekend with celebration concerts. And those concerts were fully funded by our Experience Ontario grant. The 2025 festival series will continue next year, September to November. And some of our new items that we're looking to purchase will be the cross street banners in Stayner and in Creemore, as well as the return of a few new events and the return of the Backroads Rally. So just really exciting things to look forward to. We're just working actually on our final reports right now, but definitely a lot more information to come out in 2025.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you to Ms. Murray and Ms. Rogers for helping me out here today. Another component of the slides that I forgot to include also was, you may not have seen any numbers in there. There was no increases to any of those budgetary items that Ms. Rogers or Ms. Murray talked about. So all those programs were all using the same amount that we were used last year. So there was no increases to our budget for those projects. Pretty much status quo, but we continue to get creative and try to maximize most we can with the money that we received. Oh, give me 1 second. There we go. Sorry, Your Worship, I pressed the wrong button. Boom, here we go. So some 2025 capital project carryovers to from 2024 to 2025. So these are projects that for a variety of reasons, we will not be able to complete them this year. So we want to carry them over for next year, and hopefully we'll be able to complete all of them in 2025. The first one is to replace the existing skateboard park amenities at the Stayner Arena. The improvements that we want to do to the skateboard park, again, we had a lot of projects this year and we couldn't get to that one, so we've asked to carry that one over. Also, the fully accessible playground. If you recall, the department brought that project forward as potential grant opportunity, and we chose to postpone that one for a year. So we're going to try to capture other grants for this project in the future, but we've asked to carry that amount over. Also, the Creemore Curling Club, a project that Councillor Beelan brought forward last year. We were able to do the lighting in there, but unfortunately, the company who does the ceiling kind of bailed on us. They have a bit of a small window of opportunity to do the roofing, the ceiling there, and it was scheduled for early August. Unfortunately, they had to cancel on us, and we ran out of time, and we had to put ice in for our curlers. So we are lined up for the spring of 2025 to get that project completed. Also, the McKean Park development, the accessories in the park. There's $100,000 that Councillor Deneen had put forward a couple of years ago, in fact, and so we're hoping to work with the residents of McKean Park in Ottawa in the very near future to have those town hall meetings and complete that project. But the $100,000 is still there for next year. Also, the youth center grants reserves. So there are grants that we've applied for, very small grants here and there, or some fundraising that we've done. So we've asked to carry that over as well. Another one that was omitted, again, part of these adjustments on our slides, Your Worship, was also the $100,000 for the tennis courts / pickleball courts out here in front of the town hall. My apologies, it wasn't put on one of these slides, but that also was carried over for next year. As you know, our department will be bringing forward a report to council very, very soon with a conceptual design that council had requested, and we'll share that with council in the very near future, but those funds are also being carried over. Some 2025 capital project improvements, new and ongoing. So for general recreation, parks and equipment, we're asking council to keep the $30,000 for trails development in the budget. We're also proposing, as part of the DC funding projects, this one is, we have the money to move these two forward. These two projects is to purchase a utility tractor. I've kind of put a bit of a picture there to give council a bit of an idea of what that looks like. We're looking towards upgrading the tractor that we presently have. This one will be much bigger and be able to tow much more. And we're also proposing to add a baseball field infield equipment. Again, I put a picture there for council to review. It's a very specialized equipment that gets towed behind these tractors. These things are miracle workers. They do an amazing job. You just drive around the baseball field once and it completely top dresses the baseball fields. I think our baseball fields are fairly well maintained. We do rely quite a bit on our volunteers, guys like Mr. Todd Patton here and his team of folks. They volunteer tremendously in our ball fields and to help maintain it. But we're thinking with this piece of equipment, it'll make their lives a lot easier. It's going to do a phenomenal job. You should see some great improvements with our ball fields. Again, these are all 100% paid for by the DC funding. Also, a bit of a typo here. I put down enclosed trailer. My apologies. It's actually supposed to be a low profile deck over wheel trailer is what the department's proposing. Again, part of our DC funding. We're hoping to purchase a low profile trailer that could tow this tractor around. So it's pretty heavy. We need a trailer that can actually withstand that kind of weight. And we also want to use that trailer, your worship, for the spare Olympia isosurfacer that we have. We have it stored right now at the Sunnydale garage, but we want to be able to purchase a trailer that's going to be able to move that unit around fairly easy versus hiring an outside contractor. Again, we're proposing $103,000 for the tractor and the infill equipment, and approximately $20,000 for the low profile trailer. Also, another project that unfortunately creeped up on us. I say unfortunately because you never like to spend this kind of money, but we had hired a company called Garland Canada Inc. They're consultants that do professional surveys of roofs. So we went out and got all of our roofs surveyed. They've used I forget, it's like an infrared machine that can seek out leaks. We used this company for our office area, if you recall, at the Stainer Arena, when we had to repatch and redo that roofing, as well as the the dressing room area for the Premor Arena. So we also hired these folks to go out and review the roof at the tourism building. We knew that it was slowly leaking over the years, mainly on the warehouse side, but there are slow leaks that were happening. But we started seeing some significant leaks this year, much more than years past. So we got the roof reviewed. I have the report here, a nice professional report. They took pictures of practically almost every bolt on that roof. It's really well done, but unfortunately, it needs to be repaired as soon as possible. It's leaking very bad and it's got a lot of repairs. I put a few pictures in the slide here for council to review, but there's a lot of cracks, a lot of rivets, a lot of work that has to be done to this roof. We're not proposing, or the consultant isn't proposing, to redo the whole roof. It's more of a patching style of roofing project. I had invited Mr. Baz DeCanish to join me to assist our department in doing these reviews. He had a lot of good questions for the consultant. He was questioning, as the amount that they're proposing it would cost to replace it. And in their professional opinion, that's what they propose it would cost to repair that roof, is approximately $120,000. Unfortunately, we did not have that kind of money in our reserve. And it's an amount that has to be included in our taxation budget this year. Again, I could provide more details with respect to this project to council in the future if council so chooses. They also did a review of our big roofs. I call them big roofs, the large roofs, over both arenas. So on top of the Stainer Arena, where the arena pad is, as well as the Creemore Arena. And there's some work that has to be done there as well. I was hoping to perhaps do one of those projects this year, but again, the tourism center kind of trumped that. And so I'm going to be bringing a presentation to council in 2025, your worship, to fully go through the roofing recommendations that the consultant has provided. And then we'll try to budget these projects over the course of the next few years and get them done. The Stainer Arena, again, is another one of those ones we know it's leaking. There's a couple spots, for example, over the visitors net. We get a warm rain day. We're getting some water that drips down for some reason, right in the crease, which is really bizarre. And there's a few other spots as well that's leaking, such as the Siskins dressing room. Another project we wanted to put on council's radar is a proposed maintenance facility for the Parks and Rec Department. Again, this is proposed to be funded 100% by the development charge projects. This is one very similar to Fire Chief Scott Davison was mentioning in his presentation, that it's dependent on the water taps opening up. So once that development happens and we start getting more development charge funding, this is a project that was earmarked for somewhere between 2025 and 2027. I wanted to put it on council's radar so you can kind of see the ideas that's being proposed and the need for this type of building. You have in front of you a conceptual design of what it could look like. This facility would house some office space, some meeting rooms, some washrooms for our staff, as well as 3 or 4 bay garage. Our idea as well, I'll show you the next few slides, is also to perhaps have some storage. I'll show that in a second. So a bit of a top-down view on the next slide there. It kind of shows you the proposed location. This is just a suggestion that the department is putting forward to council to consider. It would be to utilize the old FS building space that is presently vacant in downtown Stainer. It's land that's owned by the community. It's right now it's not being used and could easily house this facility. You can see in the slide a little bit of the concept for parking for staff, parking for visitors, as well as housing the building itself. So it would fit in that location. The next slide kind of shows a bit of the idea that we're shooting around, just sharing with people. As you can see looking from the bottom up, you can kind of see the office spaces and some washrooms. You can kind of see the bays on the left. And in the back is the proposed individual storage units that we're thinking about adding on to this facility. And the idea here is to be able to provide these storage facilities, or these little cubby holes, I guess you can call them, to other departments. So for example, the building department may want one for their needs, or the bylaw department might want one, for bike storage or whatnot. So we're proposing having individual storage bins, I guess you could kind of say, behind the buildings where we can have access to them as well. So have a bit of a multi-use facility for other departments, not just the Parks and Rec, but some space that could be used for other departments. Again, just to reiterate, this is probably a project that's not going to be happening in 2025 unless, we start to get a lot of development and we get the water comes through for our development for our homes. But you never know. But we definitely wanted to give council a bit of a heads up on what we're thinking. There will be more presentations in the future, Your Worship, to really talk about this project once it gets materialized. Also, for Stainer facilities and parks, we're proposing to continue repurposing a lot of our baseball fields. For specifically here in Stainer, would be to earmark approximately 40,000 for baseball diamonds in Stainer, as well as replace and repair existing playground equipment for $50,000. And we also want to replace the bleachers. If any of council has been to any of our ballparks, you would have known that our bleachers are in dire need to be replaced. Some of them may not even meet code. Some of them are not, they're definitely not accessible. So we definitely want to replace those units with nice low profile aluminum style bleachers. Our goal is to replace all the bleachers at all of our baseball parks in the next 2 years. But this 10,000 here, we should be able to do the bleachers at Ice Park for next year. For Creemore facilities and parks, we're proposing to replace and repair existing playground equipment for 10,000. Also a new project that's come forward in working with Councillor MacArthur in Creemore. We had been approached by a group of local citizens who been wanting or asking the township to build pickleball courts in Creemore. There is a tennis court in Creemore, but there's only 2 courts there, and the demand for the pickleball is growing every day. Like I said, we were approached by a group of citizens, mainly Mike and Sandy Schmidt. I hope I'm saying that name correctly. Mike had approached me, and he has provided us a letter of intent to create a sanctioned organization in Creemore for pickleball. He has received 7 more signatures of folks that are willing to commit themselves to putting on the program on a volunteer basis in Creemore. So the staff is proposing to council to build a 3 to 5 court pickleball court in the vicinity of the Creemore Community Center. The proposed location would be next to the skateboard park on the west side. If you kind of know what I'm trying to say. I wish I had a bit of a top-down view for you. I will bring forward some conceptual designs for that as well in the future, but we're hoping to build a 3 to 5 court right next to the skateboard park. Have a paved trail from the parking lot to the courts. Also, we're proposing on replacing bleachers at the Gowan Park. Again, those bleachers may have had its best days behind them. We want to replace those bleachers with proper bleachers for approximately $10,000 there as well. And we're also proposing $50,000 to modernize the community hall at the Creemore Arena. So if you know now, we kind of have a bit of a bar kind of kitchen area. Again, it needs a refresh. We have some ideas on how to fix that up and turn that into a bit of a storage as well as a bit of a servery. So we're proposing $50,000 there to modernize that area. As part of some improvements for Nottawa, New Lowell, Dunedin, their parks and facilities, we're proposing replacing and repairing the existing playground equipment in those locations for approximately $40,000, as well as continue to repair the New Lowell parking lot of the New Lowell Recreation Park. The parking lot there, again, is, since we've did the building next door and it looks fantastic. We're not proposing paving that area yet, but we are proposing expanding the parking lot as well as adding more material and grading it so that it's not a mess that it usually is in the springtime. We are doing some work there as we speak. We're trying to get a little bit of work in through our general operations now because it's dry. We know that in the spring, that location becomes extremely saturated where you can't even get in there to do any work. So we're trying to get ahead of the game a little bit and do a little bit of the work this fall so that it's ready for us for next spring. It'll be a much easier process. For the Eco Park in Stayner, usually we have a bunch of items here. This again, being condescending about being conscious about the budget this year. The department is proposing just adding a community garden maintenance shed. There is one that's there now. It was designed to be a maintenance shed, but it has kind of working with the volunteers of the community garden. They're starting to use it more for program-based storage. So the volunteers there are putting on a lot of programs for the community garden. They have a lot of program material. And so program material and maintenance items kind of don't mix. You got gas, you got fumes, you got weed eaters weed whackers and lawnmowers, and it's kind of outgrown itself. So they've asked us if we can add another maintenance shed to that location. And we're thinking about mirroring what's kind of there now, Your Worship, kind of having that outdoor country look and feel, and something that's already pre-built and just dropped it on site. Regarding the community halls, AODA renovations, as I mentioned, the Sunnydale Hall is complete. We're presently working on Evening Hall. It's coming along very nicely. I was able to have a bit of a site visit there. It's going to be absolutely beautiful. And again, we anticipate it surpassing our expectations. You can kind of see the new addition now and how it's going to look, and it's going to be phenomenal. Again, we're anticipating that project being completed in 2025. That's part of this year's budget. No new additions to 2025 for the Evening Hall. However, as council knows, we have submitted an application through the Sports and Recreation Provincial Grant in the amount of $1,000 for a total project cost of approximately 1.2 for the Duntroon Hall. We haven't received any results yet, and once we receive that, we'll definitely share that with council. But that is definitely a project that's on the books for 2025. If the grant is approved, Your Worship, we will bring that project back and talk about the financing details and how that's going to get paid for. So my last slide, Your Worship, is I have questions, but again, while I was reviewing my presentation today, there's two more projects that I forgot to mention that I want to share today. One is the project that Councillor Walker brought forward last year. And I didn't have the information when I created this presentation, but it just came in late last week, which was to replace the windows in the lobby of the Stainer Arena. Councillor Walker last year, with council's approval, had approximately $10,000 to do that study. We had hired RJ Burnside, mainly Mr. Mark Cabes. Again, I hope I'm saying his name properly, to do the review. He had done a review of the possibilities of changing the windows in the lobby, making them top to bottom, as Councillor Walker had suggested. And they came back with an amount of a total construction budget of approximately $75,000. The good news is it could be done. I think Councillor Walker, if I recall, your question was, could it be done? And two, how much would it cost? The good news is it could be done in approximately 75. Mr. Cabes says that for budget purposes, we probably could use a number between 75 and 100, but that's about the number he felt would be comfortable with. We did not include that project in 2025 as part of the staff recommendations. Again, being conscious of the budget, trying to work on mainly priority items for 2025, we did not include that project, but perhaps it's something that we could look forward to in the future. And finally, one that I forgot to mention is the Creemore ice resurfacer, the Zamboni in the Creemore Arena. It's on its 11th, maybe even 12th year. We are not proposing yet to replace it. We're hoping to maybe get another year out of it. Again, very similar to the Public Works Department. The question I think Deputy Van Severen brought forward with respect to when do you order these, because it took 18 months for us to get the one in Stainer. We're anticipating probably a good 2 years to get one to replace the one in Creemore. But I think we're going to try to squeeze another year out of this one. We gambled with this machine. We gambled with this process for the Stainer Arena, and we added another year. And unfortunately, we did have a few repairs that had to be done to that unit. So we're really knocking on wood here, hoping that we're not going to have any issues. But we're hoping to bring that project forward next year. And as you know, Your Worship, we did keep the old Stainer one as a bit of a spare for us. We did actually rent it out last year a couple of times to Barrie. They were in need of an ice resurfacer, and we actually rented ours out twice. So I think that's going to grow. But our plan would be to change the old one from Stainer and then keep the old one from Creemore as our spare, because it's 4 years newer, maybe 3 years newer. So we kind of bump that down, if you know what I'm trying to say. So we would trade in the old one from Stainer with the new one from Creemore. But we're going to bring that one forward next year, but I just wanted to put that one on council's radar as well. I'm getting asked that all the time because we've replaced the electric one in Stainer. Folks are always asking me, well, when are you going to put the electric one in Creemore? And just for council to know, we'll bring that one forward next year. With that, that's my presentation for today. I would be happy for me and my team to answer any questions that council may have.
Okay. Thank you very much, Terry. Good work. It's always good to read the Recreation Department budget and see where their plans are. So thank you for bringing that forward. I'm going to go directly to the Deputy Mayor. He has a group of questions, and then I'll ask for other members of council.
Thank you, Your Worship. Is where I have to leave at 3 o'clock. So a couple of questions. First, I'm not sure if Terry or Amanda can answer this. When we were talking about the Clearview volunteer banquet that we hold, will that be in at the same time as the Hall of Fame banquet? Are we going to do them two venues together?
Thank you, Your Worship. No, through you. No, those are going to be two separate events.
Yeah.
So the volunteer will be its own event in collaboration with the Clerk's Department. The Hall of Fame will be late spring, kind of early summer. Those will be two different events.
Okay, just a thought there. With this 10th anniversary of the small halls, it was mentioned we received considerable funding from Experience Ontario funding. I know we blew a bit of the budget last year with the 10th anniversary celebrations. Are we, I guess a general comment, are we going to experience the same monies available this year and ongoing, or is it going to come to an end, or where do we stand with that?
Sure. I'm going to ask Ms. Murray to answer that question, Your Worship.
Through you, Your Worship, to Deputy Mayor Van Staveren. So the Experience Ontario grant is just a 1 year, although it was announced for 3 years. You have to apply for it each year, if I understand your question correctly.
Yeah, I just want to make sure, and like I say, we spent a lot of money last year for the 10th anniversary. I just want to make sure that I don't say bring it back in line with, what funds we have available, because we are looking at a tight budget this year with some of our concerns, so.
Yes, I understand now. No, so the enhanced celebration concerts that we did this year was dependent on that grant funding. So next year for 2025, in order to do the same high caliber of performers that would come in, I'd either have to source either additional grant funding, increase ticket prices, or secure additional sponsors. It would not come out of taxation if we were going to do the same caliber of performances.
Okay, thank you. That answers that one. Terry, in regards, as being a truck driver, as Mr. MacArthur is as well, and others, the trailer that you're proposing to buy,
Yes.
what vehicle are we going to pull it with?
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. And maybe I should have clarified that earlier through you. We are, so our fleet of pickup trucks is part of the enterprise program. We are scheduled to replace our trucks next year with enterprise, and we will be proposing to upgrade one of the 150s to an F-250.
Okay, because be very careful when we all know if you're proposing a bigger tractor, which starts to weigh 5,000-6,000 pounds with a cab and all the accessories, a G license is good for 11,000 kilograms,
Yes.
or we do 23,500 pounds. So we don't have enough. Most of our employees don't have enough license to run these things. So just be very careful.
Yep.
Some of them, I'll just comment on a couple of things, roofs and stuff like that. They have to be fixed. And I think we've got some really good contractors. We saw what we did over at the Nottawa Hall. We were able to secure a local person to do it. And I think it worked a lot better than a lot of people expected. It looks good to me. The other comment I'll make about the potential someday of a Parks and Rec building, I think we got to look at that entire property, similar to what we're doing outside here right now with what we want to do in for the pickleball and tennis and basketball and all of the field here. We've got a building out there, the old co-op. I won't call the building obsolete, but we got issues with it. And I think it's something, if we're going to look at putting money into a roof, should we be looking at redeveloping that property to begin with? Maybe it's better to put an addition on that building to incorporate what we got, or maybe we can't do it. So I just want to make sure I don't want to end up with too many buildings, because every time we end up with buildings, we end up with maintenance and staffing and everything else. So I think we got to look at that whole property as what do we want? It's a gem in terms of its location for downtown, and I don't want to ruin that property, so to speak. So anyways, just a little comment for you to think about as far as when the day comes that we will consider it in a budget. Thank you.
All right, Terry?
Yeah, sure, Your Worship. Just a quick comment on the final point regarding the tourism building. I do know that building was supposed to be part of the Stainer Downtown Revitalization Project with the parking lot there, with the park. That's been put on hold for a little bit until development starts to happen. Also, Ms. Can with the Plan Department also wants to get involved in that project more extensively. So that building was supposed to be part of that project, and the renovations, repairs, replacement was supposed to be part of that. So I don't know where it kind of fits now. We're gonna have to try to figure that one out. But it was on the books to review that as part of that project.
Right. I guess it's a working document, and we see, we've got the Stainer Care Center coming our way,
Yes.
which has got so much potential. It's going to make a beautiful downtown opportunity. So it's the same with change. Things are going to change with it from the one plan to the plan we're going to use. So thank you.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I know if you've got to slip out, you've got to go, but we're going to keep going here. Mr. Broderick is up next, and then I think Mr. Beelan. Okay, go ahead.
Oh, we can shorten this up. Thank you, your worship. The deputy mayor actually asked my question, so
Oh, you're done.
I'm done.
Okay, then. Thank you so much, Mr. Beelan.
Thank you, your worship. Terry, I actually have three questions for you. The first one is about the facility utilities. I think this was put out by Kelly. It went down $14,000. Is that because of the LED lights that were put in?
In Creemore,
Yeah.
Creemore Arena? Yes.
Wow, that's good. A good thing there.
Yeah.
Right
There
underneath
was
that,
some-
it has facility maintenance
Yes.
going up 14.9%, $33,000 more than last year. Why? Like a lot of our maintenance seems to be good shooting through the roof. What's going on there?
Creemore Arena again? Sorry, just to clarify, your worship, are you speaking about the Creemore Arena?
Well, this just
Or-
says,
Oh, as a whole, yes.
this is your operating budget overall,
I
and
understand.
it's 14.9% increase in facility maintenance.
Yes. Through you, your worship, Councilor Beelan, yeah, so that represents, sorry, I'm not aware which document you're looking at, but I saw the colors there, so now I know. Yeah, that's represents all of our facilities. So that budget line is for all of our parks, all of our arenas. And so this, it's the cost of material going up for all those locations. So that 38,000 represents improvements in renovations.
33,000. That's still 14.9% increase. So
Yeah.
we still had the same number of facilities last year
Correct.
as this year.
Yeah.
So I'm just looking at the percentage increase and it's gone up a whole bunch.
Yeah.
Wow.
I'd have to break it down, Councilor Beelan, to really see what that 38 represents, but if I recall.
If you
that's
could,
all.
yeah, I'd appreciate it if you stay. The last question I have is you mentioned $30,000 for trails development. What
Yes.
and where?
So this, every year, our teams, in the springtime, we review. I don't have any designated trails yet. We're waiting to see how the rail trail materializes with the Simcoe County. As you know, they're redoing the whole trail there. So, we may have to tap in to that trail. Also, what happens over the course of the winter, we have trails that have to be repaired. Based on the weather of the course of the winter, depending on what kind of winter you have. So we have to sometimes top dress existing trails. So that amount, it gets used to repair existing trails as well as building trails.
Because yours said trail development, not trail maintenance.
Correct. We use it for both.
So you got 30K for trail development.
Correct.
Okay.
But again, we don't have any designated trails yet to be either repaired or built. Usually we do, but this year we don't. But we're anticipating some new trails with respect to the project that's being developed with the Simcoe County.
Okay.
If there's no need, Councilor Bean, we won't spend that money. If there is no new trails or none that has to be repaired, we won't obviously spend that money.
Thank you, Councillor. We're going to go over to Councillor MacArthur and then Walker.
Yeah, just a quick comment, Terry. We had Docs on Ice here with the presentation the other night, and they'd like to use our facilities in 2026. And then you mentioned the 3-on-3.
Yes.
I can't remember their dates, but hopefully we can plan ahead and get coordinated and help them out.
To you, your worship, absolutely. Their date works very well. They had approached us about a month ago, maybe 2 months ago, with their proposed project. They had a different date, which could have been a challenge. Minor hockey still had their playoffs. And then, of course, we had a 3-on-3, and it was kind of like late March. When they presented their day, they presented April 10th and the 11th, which is perfect. So it's not going to be a problem. Yeah. And we're going to get involved with them and really help them out. They made an amazing presentation. We're going to be all over the, helping them out, and it's not going to be a problem.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Walker?
Thank you, your worship. Terry, the tourism roof, you said it was 120,000 potentially for patch and repair?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
That seems like a lot for that project. Like, I would think you could maybe put a whole new roof on for that. I don't really know the price of steel, but it seems a lot of money.
Think of the roof here that we did on this building. It was all steel. And we did get a terrific price, but it was surprisingly expensive too.
Yes.
But the thing about the steel, right? The steel does last a lot longer than a lot of other roofing materials.
Yeah,
So
I just thought, wow, that's a lot of money.
Your worship, just a
Yes.
quick comment. As I mentioned, I worked with Mr. DeCanish, who was a real asset to our corporation, and because he was questioning that number as well. He went through it with a fine-tooth comb and really wanted some answers, and the consultant had all the answers. the new roof costs, because that's the cost that Mr. DeCaney said, well, how much is a new? And it was in the $300,000 to $400,000 range. Yeah, so that's supposed to be the new cost of, I know when we did the Stainer office, the year before I had budget for 35,000. When we went out for tender, it came in at 90 that one year, it doubled. And we couldn't believe it. And then when we went out for tender again, it came at like 120. The roofing seems to just be escalating, but that seems to be the going amount. The good news is I prefer to be over, like higher than being under and then coming back and trying to find more money later. You know, at least we know what this number seems to be pretty accurate.
Pretty accurate. Okay, thank you. The other thing is the ballpark in Stainer that now you've taken the tennis courts and stuff out. Is there money still in this year's budget to complete that project, or is that something that's added on to next year's completion?
So through your worship, as I mentioned in the presentation, that money has been carried over. Yeah, that was part of the cover. It's not in my presentation. I added it verbally at the end. I had forgotten to list that one, but that one is in there as well. Yeah. The Stainer baseball, yeah, the Stainer Baseball Association are just ecstatic about that. They can now actually play baseball under the lights in Stainer. And they are really, really happy, and we're really, really pleased. It's really good. Good news.
All right. Are there other members? Councillor Janine, you want to have?
Through your worship to Terry, and I'm sorry, this isn't a budget item. I just want to question something that you were talking about.
Sure.
As far as not having lifeguards.
Yes.
We gave free lessons this year in Bronze Cross. And were they well attended? Is there potential there for future lifeguards?
I have to ask Miss Murray to come and answer.
Thank you.
She hasn't.
Thank you through you, your worship, to Councillor Deneen. So the Bronze Cross and Bronze Medallion are the aquatic advanced leadership courses that you're referencing. They've been provided free for the past 2 summers. I would say we have a graduation rate of about 12 to 13 students. 2 of them have gone on to be lifeguards, fully qualified. We actually were able to hire one of them this past summer. But the transition from going from Bronze Cross, Bronze Medallion into your NL, so your National Elite Lifeguard qualifications, is quite a jump. So one of the, there's 2 things for that. One, it's quite costly, so the barrier of participation is quite high, as well as young people's ability to be mature and to take on responsibilities doesn't seem to be keeping up with the pace of these qualifications. So the National Lifeguarding Society worked with public health and a number of agencies to try to even lower the age even further. So now we can accept lifeguards as young as 15 to try to give them more opportunities. They now have to do a mentorship program. There needs to do more hours in the pool to try to better support and train these young people into our pools. But at the end of the day, there's just a steep decline of qualified lifeguards, not just in Clearview, but across the country. So it's definitely going to be a challenge that we'll be facing, not just next summer, but potentially for future years. And we're just adjusting to that, like we said in the presentation, unfortunately reducing hours of operation, but not impacting swimming lessons. So trying to always maintain the same number of hours and the same level to give people a chance to be trained to swim, to learn how to swim, to be safe around water, and hopefully move through the channels to become lifeguards. So great comment. We're all in the industry very much involved, and we're trying to be passionate and trying to get more young people and to also keep young adults maintain your qualifications, because lifeguarding is still a really good career choice, either as a summer job, either as a part-time or seasonal position. So that's the other angle too. Don't let those qualifications expire. Really maintain them, and there are jobs available here in our community and in others. So good comment though.
Thank you. I knew that they could do their Bronze Cross at a younger age now, and I wasn't sure about the time frame and what they needed to do going forward from there. But so they're trying to reduce the age that they can become fully qualified. Thanks. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Janine. Back to Councillor Walker.
Yeah, just Terry, I meant to say thank you for the information on the lobby windows for the Stain Arena. I had that down as a question to find out where that was going. So I think there is potential there. So I believe maybe that's something for maybe a 26 budget to look at, to make them longer and take out some of the center posting so that we have a larger viewing area from internal. So I think, thank you for your information, and we'll maybe look forward to that in hopefully 26. It all depends. All depends how the budget works. Thanks.
All right, thank you. Other members, nothing? I got a few questions myself. First thing I just want to comment on, Terry, was in one of your very early slides. You mentioned the Middle Bridge project over here at Kinsman Park, Centennial Park. The $90,000, is that going to be held in a reserve? Is that what you're planning to do? Because we eventually will be looking at that bridge project. Is that what you're thinking?
Oh, that's a very good question, Your Worship. I don't think Treasurer McDonald and I had that discussion about
Okay.
that. I'm trying to recall where that money came from. If it came from taxation this year, then it could be moved to reserve. If it was coming from reserve, it would remain in reserve. So I would have to find out from her, I don't know if she's still on, if she knows off the top of her head, if where that money came from. But yes, I think the goal would be to try to keep the money in there for future use.
Okay. I just want to point out that as a senior manager, you and our deputy or our director of public works now will have bridge reserves.
Yeah.
He's got 72, you've got 1.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Okay, him to pay for it.
This is a question for you or perhaps Amanda, who manages this project. The 15 students that we bring in through the summer months, they have a lot of different responsibilities. And I know that we often apply for different funding models and funding programs for youth employment. I just want to be assured that we are still continuing to apply for Ontario and federal government applications for student programs. Is that correct?
Yes, it's correct, Your Worship. Those applications are done mainly through the HR department.
Yes.
We know that the numbers have been dwindling every year.
Yes, I know.
I think this year was even the lowest it's ever been. Maybe it's a good question for Ms. Gill in the future to see where we're at, or maybe even next spring. We do apply every year, but the pot of money is getting lower and lower and lower.
Okay.
But we do still apply, yes.
Okay. The other question I had was kind of brought up by the deputy mayor and Mr. Broderick in regards to the trucking, the trailer trucking, et cetera. In the recent past, we have seen our tourism department use a rental vehicle. Sometimes it's white, sometimes it's not. Are we still engaging in doing that activity, or do we have enough vehicles assigned to your department to provide the services that are required?
Thank you, Your Worship. We definitely have enough vehicles to provide the services that are required. Unfortunately, I'm familiar with the rentals that we should have.
We had a white rental truck for several months that came from Lafreniere's, I believe it was, wasn't it?
It might have been a couple of years ago, Your Worship.
Okay, I'm just asking, just to make sure we do have enough vehicles.
We definitely do. Since the enterprise program that we've had, the successful program, we definitely have enough vehicles to meet our needs for sure.
Okay, so that's good. And I like what your comment about moving to a 250 with some of the zero turn mowers and the weight of those as braking and all those type of things. We want to make sure that our employees are safe and are qualified to operate that. Just a question, I'm not sure. Do you have any DZ operators who work for the recreation department?
Thank you, Your Worship. To my knowledge, I don't think we have any current. I think we had some employees that had their DZs.
Okay, just one.
They may let them go. We may have to explore that in the future. We actually had a meeting about that today, actually.
Okay.
Part of our team. And so it might be something we might have to piggyback and ask the Public Works sometime to maybe perhaps drive if required, depending on the weight.
Okay.
But we know I don't have any DZs at the moment.
All right. I've got a few more questions unless there's somebody else. Okay, I'm going to move over to Amanda. I want to talk about the fantastic event, Trail Tunes. Can you please assure us at Clearview Township that this continues to be a positive relationship and partnership with our partnering municipalities? And do you feel that we continue to get the recognition as a full standing partner in this event?
Yeah, thank you very much, Your Worship. So interestingly enough, we just had our first meeting to talk about 2025, and it involved our partners in Wasaga Beach as well as the town of Collingwood. So the intention is to continue with the 3 municipal partners, as well as Cycle Simcoe, who is a key asset as they do all the mapping and provide the route and the landing page for Trail Tunes, so that it's not being housed or held on one municipal website. So in fact, you would go to cyclesimco.ca/trailtunes to get the updated information. Good news, next year, 2025, we will be the host municipality for the nighttime concert.
Gotcha.
So the way the program runs exactly is it's typically 12 till 4 on the first Saturday in June. Don't know my map or my calendar off the top of my head yet. I think it's like June 7th or 8th. And the regular program's 12 till 4, and then we invite everybody back to one municipality. So this year will be in Clearview at Centennial Park in downtown Stayner. So yes, we do hope to. And my understanding is that one of my municipal partners in Collingwood will be applying for the Festivals and Events Ontario Top 100 Award once again. So that's an initiative that we've taken on collaboratively with the 3 of us.
Okay, it's a terrific event. I enjoy attending it. And I just hope that we can make sure that it gets and attains the promotion that attracts the people to come to the events. It's very, very worthy at all 3. I've had the opportunity over the years we've held this event to stop at each one. And it's really a great event, but it doesn't have a huge attendance. And so the final evening concert usually is well attended, and that's obviously a focal point of the whole process. But I would really hope the citizens understand that perhaps we can take a look at some of the marketing we can do with our partners to really improve this.
Yeah. If I can provide a comment back, Mayor Measures. So year 1 for Trail Tunes, the requirement of the grant funding we received was to promote cycle tourism outside the 40-kilometer geographic area. In order to be a designated tourist, you need to travel or come from further than 40 kilometers. So more than 80% of our advertising dollars went to markets outside of Clearview, Collingwood, and Wasaga. Luckily for us, that could include just as close as Barrie or Meaford. So that was helpful in some regard because those are big cycle communities. Year 2 and last year, year 3, really saw more of that shift. So we did heavier local advertising and local marketing within region, and then less of a draw to the outside with the intention that we could tap into the true visitor through other cost-effective ways, such as our e-newsletter through Cycle Simcoe. So I do believe that we're going to start to see that trend go up, and it is weather dependent, and it's dependent on people loving to cycle on our trails and loving music outside.
Absolutely.
Both of which I think are amazing, but it is a niche market at times.
Outstanding. Thank you very much for that update. Appreciate that. Terry, thank you, Amanda. I got a couple more quick things here, unless there's anybody else. Skateboard park. You mentioned that we're going to replace, so your intention is to replace skateboard gear in Stayner?
Correct.
Okay. What are we doing in Creemore with our skateboard park there? Honestly, I've been into the place for 10 years, so I can't even think of what the condition is.
Thank you, Your Worship. I mean, the condition is very similar to Stayner.
Okay.
It's a little smaller kind of
Sure.
thing, but our goal is to try to seek out some government funding to assist us with that project and incorporate both projects. So although we have this listed as a Stayner skateboard park, if we can attract the right project with the right funding,
Okay.
you know, like a double up kind of funding, maybe perhaps we can incorporate both skateboard parks at the same time. So again,
Okay, I'm just asking because
yeah.
I haven't been in for a while to take a look at it. I don't know if you stop in there every week to kick a few boards around, but I just thought I'd ask.
Yeah, but more recently, due to the pickleball project.
Yeah, of course.
Right? I've been there more often and I've seen it, but it's again, it's old equipment. It needs to be replaced, but we're trying to get some government funding to perhaps double the size. That's another piece of equipment that has went up big time in the last 5 years as well.
Okay. I'd like to come back to the building roof discussion. First of all, you know, I'm very pleased with the way we operate here and the way our CAO has worked with our senior management team to put things together and try to tie things up. And we've had some good examples of that where we have different departments work together. This building roof that we're talking about also is the roof that protects a very important asset to the clerk's department, meaning our document storage area. Basically, it's a very secure vault for all the community's documents. So, Terry, when you're putting this project together, is there any way to make sure that the funding for this type of roof would come out of partially the clerk's department, or do we have some sort of internal rental agreement between departments on this, Madam Clerk? Terry first.
Okay, yeah, I don't know the full history.
I don't know either, and that's why I'm
Partnerships
asking.
before
I mean, we're gonna spend a lot of money on a roof here.
Yeah,
And I know that you're gonna spend it in your department, but this department over here uses that facility a lot.
they do.
So
I mean, it's the same kind of pocket.
I get it. I'm
Yeah,
just
yeah.
thinking,
Yeah,
yeah,
but maybe I'll let Ms. Helmke answer that. But the roof being repaired will cover that part of the facility.
for sure.
I'll let maybe Ms.
Go ahead,
Helmke
Madam
handle
Clerk.
Thank you, Your Worship. And I don't know if Treasurer McDonald can help me. Similar to this building, we should have a reserve for that building maintenance because it is a township building. It's not specific to one department. Clerks doesn't have a line item for capital maintenance and projects for those types of items. But I'll let Kelly come on because I think she'll probably have a little bit more fulsome answer than myself.
Okay.
Yeah,
Hi,
it's-
Kelly.
oh, there it is. Sorry, Your Worship, it was taking a minute for my camera to finally click on.
There we go. That's okay.
We do have a township facility replacement building reserve. It's not huge. We do only put 50,000 a year in it, but I can certainly work with Terry and see if there's an opportunity to partially fund the records management portion of the roof. Maybe.
Well, for sure. I mean, it's funny because the whole reason we purchased this building in the first place, to be quite honest, was one, it was a great deal. Like we got it for a tremendous price, really good deal. And then we recognized immediately that the document storage issues around the township had been dwindling since amalgamation. And we moved quickly on making sure that that facility was secure. And the renovation made it very secure with separate heating and HVAC systems and security systems, et cetera. And to be honest, I've never even been in the room. I've never even been in it. But I know it's an important piece of how the whole township has to operate and all municipalities have to have these things. So that's why I just think we should make sure that we balance that out as to why it's an important piece. And we can demonstrate obviously to the public that we need to do these things in a fair and equitable manner between departments to make sure that we're spending money in the right place. Okay? Whew, got through that one. The DCs for the garage project.
Yes.
So you're talking about the garage project, perhaps a 26, 27 build. Is that what you're thinking?
Yep.
Okay, so the monies you would ask for from DCs right now, would that be engineering, architectural and conceptual work? Like you put those storage units on the back there, which was a brilliant idea, but that also is, again, taking areas from other departments. So
Yes.
Is that what you're proposing just for this year?
Thank you, Worship. No, we're not proposing to spend any money yet.
Okay,
Any money until we know that the growth from the development is going to happen. So once we know that, if this development starts to happen with the water and stuff, we will come back to council at that point, perhaps as a special project, perhaps to get that project going and get the
Right.
architectural designs. At this time, though, as of today, we're not proposing spending any money until that happens.
okay. So it'll be one of those items that'll leave an asterisk beside it based on input from other areas of other levels of government.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Council, I do have my last question, which is really simple. You've got $10,000 to buy some bleachers.
Yes.
Is that enough money?
Yes, you.
I mean,
It
sure?
is. Yeah, we, if you, I don't know if you saw the Stainer, pool this year.
Yeah,
We built that little enclosed little area with the curtain And we put in 2 bleachers in there. They're only about 3 bleachers high, mind you. They're completely mobile and they come in at about 3,000 a piece. 2,800. So we think we can put at least 3 or 4 to start off with. What we're finding out is that folks don't really like to use those bleachers. They bring their own little camping chairs now to baseball fields.
That's true. That
And
is
so
true.
we don't know how much of a need there is. So we thought, let's get these old ones out. Let's get some nice new ones in that look good, that are only X high, so that we're meeting our height requirements. If we have to add more later on, we can always add more. But yeah, we think it's enough. Now, again, every slide is like, there's 10,000 for Stainer, 10,000 for Creemore, there's X amount for different. So altogether might be 20 or 30,000 for bleachers as a whole.
I get it,
But
but
I
I'm just
broke it
saying,
down per ball field.
it
It's
just
enough.
seemed like a low number for me, considering the bleachers that I've seen that are, pretty substantial and pretty, are pretty robust.
Right.
Because we have to build into a standard that can carry a significant amount of weight and be safe, right?
Again, your worship, these are just 3 levels high.
I get it.
The ones that we have now are 8, 9 levels high. You have to have proper railing, there's a lot
Exactly.
of AODA requirements. It's just, these ones here are just small little ones. They're not big, but they are designed and engineered designed to withstand weight.
All right.
But we're not proposing to replace what's there now. The location, yes, but it's gonna be much smaller.
All right. Thank you very much, Terry.
Welcome.
Good luck. Those are the questions that I've put forward out of this discussion. Does anybody else get anything? Thank you. Thank you, Terry. Thank you, Amanda. Thank you, Ms. Rogers. Thank you, Grace. We look forward to working with you for sure. And all the other members of the team. All right, council, we're gonna wrap up this meeting. We've got of course, our regular agenda items that we can talk about. But just before we get to that, I'd like to go to the CAO. Is there anything else you want to add, Mr. CAO, in our presentations from our staff?
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. And this is just jogging everybody's memory, staff, council, and the community, that we have a strategic plan and we have 5 priorities. Those priorities are infrastructure, recreation and culture, communication, climate, and core business agriculture. And I'd like us to keep that in mind. As I hear people speaking today, I see new initiatives being added to our strategic plan and our dashboard in all these areas. And so I just wanted to remind everybody, that's the lens that we want to make our decisions. That's how we're making our financial policy. So I'm just ask everybody, keep that in mind when we're approving our budgets. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. So council, at our next meeting, as we were talking yesterday at this time, I would ask you to have ideas on what you would like to add, what you would like to subtract, how you would like to fund, what your ideals and hopes and wishes are from your constituents. We have a little bit of time between now and that meeting, December 4th, Madam Clerk. A little bit of time to ask some questions of the senior managers or through the CAO, treasurer. Let's hope Kelly's feeling better so we can really quiz her with a lot of deep questions. But in the meantime, please be prepared when we meet on the 4th. Again, you can write them down, you can present them to the clerk, or you can bring them in cold, as they say, and we'll deal with them at that meeting. That meeting to me will be very much a workshop where we'll be bouncing ideas back and forth. And at the end of it, we'll come out with a resolution to go to a public meeting for the public to see where we are. Okay. Sounds good, folks? All right. Thank you, council. Thank you, staff. Confirmatory bylaw at this time. Be it resolved, bylaw 2483 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of the November 20th, 2024 special council meeting be presented or whatever first, second, or third time finally passed on the 20th day of November 2024. Mr. Walker, Mr. Peelan, thank you. All in favor? And the bylaw carries. Motion to adjourn. What's the time, Madam Clerk? 3:27. Does that sound good?
3:20.
3:20. Oh, it's 3:29.
All technology's getting.
All that techno, I tell you.
Don't even look at the date.
Okay.
Okay.
We just stay talking for a few more minutes. We're gonna call it 3:30 and call it even, folks. This meeting is resolved. It's adjourned at 3:30. There you go. So Deneen's the mover and Mr. Broderick will be the seconder. All those in favor? Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, staff. Thank you, members of the public. Bye-bye.